All right, what's up, everybody? Juice is Loose podcast here. We were bullshitting and got a little behind schedule, but
No, they were bullshit. Don't try to get
Bro, we're
We're
sitting
here.
quietly.
We're live. Clocked it's back. Robert's here. Everyone's here. So shout out to Meza T and Terrell for having competing live streams on Saturday night. What's up?
Friday.
Friday?
Yeah, Friday.
Was it Friday? Okay, Friday night. Because
We were all fucked up.
I couldn't decide which one, but I picked T.
Hey man, I got out my stream, went to go support T's stream. That's what we do. That's what we do out here.
There was another stream on, I don't know if it was the same time, but there was another live stream, and I got to ask a question because I was like, did I spend too much time in my Nintendo bubble, and do I miss something? Did the PS4 Pro get some kind of upgraded or a remodel, redesign that I'm not sure?
No,
I'm not aware of.
God of War edition. That's it.
Huh? Because I'm wondering, because it's like, can you play it laying down now or play it laying in bed now? Because
what?
That's fine.
Is it portable? I mean, I thought that was the best way to play. Now I see OJ, putting a goal of a PS4 Pro on there. So I'm like,
Well, he got back surgery, so he's feeling good now.
can you play these games portably now? Like, what the fuck? I thought that was the thing, but apparently not. So I just wanted to check because I didn't know if they did a revision and made it portable.
I thought you was being serious and you throwing shots.
Yeah, but I was like, you ran getting damage all of a sudden. I was like, oh,
he did get me as well.
I was hoping. So sign up for the Juiceless Patreon. Juice wants a PS4 Pro.
Wow.
Oh my god!
Wow. That's what we're doing tonight.
We're doing this tonight.
Just kidding. I
Who
don't
the
want that
fuck?
shit.
And usually he's the one who's been tipsy. What the fuck going on?
I don't even have a 4K TV.
Juice is loose Patreon, but you're getting a PS4.
Yeah, I'm drinking ice water.
Even though he already has a PS4.
I'm gonna get a
like, I want
PS4
better
Pro
one.
and Xbox One X, and not share it with these guys that are basically the reason this podcast is popular. So, fuck you guys. But anyway, all joking aside, last week we did our predictions for the sales year to date, or as of March 31st. Nintendo's briefing, I guess, is on Thursday. Clocked It wasn't there, so why don't you give your predictions? What do you think the Switch lifetime sales will be as the end of March 31st when they announce them on Thursday?
19.6 million. I've seen the future. Yeah.
Okay, and Mario Odyssey sales.
I reckon Mario Odyssey is on 15 million now.
Retrodesk said the same. Do you want to stick with it? You can. I mean,
God damn these Dutch people.
Do it a tiny bit higher by like one.
Nah, come on, I'll go higher, man. Odyssey deserves it. So let's go 16 million for Odyssey.
I mean, okay.
When they go low, we go high. Yeah.
Oh no.
All right.
And lose. Oh.
So, no one actually got Nintendo Labo yet, but there has been plenty of clips I've seen from the garage stuff, the programming, some really cool stuff. I thought we could kind of talk about that real quick. There's, to me, like, I knew there was some, or I heard there was some little programming stuff you could do, but what people have done already is like, it's blown my mind. Like, I didn't realize it was that much programming possibilities. So the highlight one for me, I think, was the light gun. Someone took the old Wii Zapper and built like a cardboard thing to tape to the Wii Zapper and put the left or the right Joy-Con in it, and then had another remote or another Joy-Con for like a trigger, and he was using the IR sensor to see the little cardboard cutout of the dude, and then he had another fucking Joy-Con hooked to him, and when he lined up his shot and hit the button, and when he hit it, then the vibration kicked in and the guy fell over. I was like, holy shit. Like, I was not expecting anything along those lines. So I was blown away. And then what the card trick one? I can't remember exactly how that one worked. Terrell, you mentioned it.
The hat trick is that you have one Joy-Con. You have the right Joy-Con that has the camera on it, the IR camera. You have that pointing in the hat, and then you have the screen that dictates the numbers and the counter. And pretty much any hat that falls in, any card that falls into the hat, it's the camera from the Joy-Con is reading that, and then the counter goes up on the screen. And I guess they had it set to a predetermined number, so once it hit like 5, you won.
Yeah, because they like used a little cardboard to cover the screen, except for one corner, like the bottom right corner.
Yeah,
and
make it look unofficially official.
Yeah, and then it had like a digital readout of numbers. So when the cards went in the hat, it said 1 and then 2. So you could actually, I'm guessing, you could have two systems set up, 2 hats, and have a competition. Or it could be basketballs. It could be shooting basketballs, and like you could put the Joy-Con camera. I don't know how elaborate that can get, but if somebody's shooting, like you could set up little, you could make them out of cardboard and throw pieces of crumpled up paper, like a basketball. So there's like, I did not think it was to that extent. I just thought there was some stuff you could do with the piano and like I guess I didn't pay attention when that video played. Did anybody else see any other ones?
I saw 2 that I really liked. It's starting out slow, I feel, but I'm starting to I never intend to buy it, but I wanted to see what we're starting to see now. There were 2 I really liked. The more intricate one that I like design wise. This person made a box. I think they made it themselves. I don't think it was from the Labo stuff. And I think it had one of the Joy-Cons in there because I think the camera was pointing out, but I'm not sure. And he had on the Switch, he had he had some piano keys. And if you played the piano keys, it was the first couple of tunes for the Mario theme. But underneath the keys, he had a little a bar that went from left to right. And you basically had to hit the keys at the same time. The bar appeared underneath the keys, and if you did it in time without making a mistake, like a candy would fall out of the box that was not even attached to it. Like, it's so brilliant. And my personal favorite one, which is I think a rather simple one, I'm not sure, is somebody made a cutout and they cut out little stars out of it, like little shaped stars, and they made a really cool black diorama with like a white moon on it and a white little girl, I think, next to it. And he programmed that if you swung the Joy-Con, one of them, it basically in the same motion that you swung it, like stars would fall on the screen. Like, it was so good. Like, I'm starting to love what we're seeing with that.
I saw that one. I think it was a cutout of Princess Peach that the person done.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Like, in the background and stuff. But yeah, I've heard a lot of stuff on the internet already where people say, for the first week, people might be playing this and then they'll put it down. But already just in the first day or 2, you're seeing a type of creativity that is surprising everyone, and I feel like this will continue and continue. Kind of like those, it'd be like a continuous Easter egg, in terms of things just being discovered. People going, holy shit, I didn't know you could do that, and then thinking of something else. And
we talked about this earlier, like before we got on, and I was talking about how I used to, have discussions with people about Labo, people who just do not get it, like they just do not understand it. And it's like, really creative people will go beyond what the kit does and do really cool stuff. It's like those guys who do really crazy things in Zelda, Breath of the Wild. It's like, you would never think they'd come up with that stuff, but some people's brains just work that way. And they're going to go beyond what, what's in the box. And that's what I'm really excited to see. Like, this is just the beginning.
That's what I'm waiting for too.
And
it makes me feel stupid. It's kind of like when you, like you said, when you see some of that Breath of the Wild stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just like, why the hell didn't I think of that? What's wrong with me?
I still haven't thrown the boomerang, like the metal boomerang, and caught it with the magnesis.
But the same thing will happen with Labo. I mean, everyone's just experimenting right now. Just
it's only going to get crazier. It's only going to get crazier.
With lights and knocking over the figures and stuff. But my God, wait until we start seeing some more stuff, like with the track designs for the motorbikes and and all that stuff. There's going to be some absolutely mental stuff going on.
I think Nintendo could expand it
They already said they will, won't they?
Yeah, like with patches. Couldn't they just patch what you can do with the garage?
Oh yeah,
and update it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, subliminal lines saying everyone's gonna forget it exists in a week from now. Like, if you think that,
good luck with that.
It could happen. But I think this is just the beginning. Like the main kits, yeah, the RC car, all that stuff, the basic stuff. You put it together. Games seem like they're kind of shallow. That stuff maybe is going to be forgotten. But the actual the things people come up with, that's not going to be forgotten. It might not become this huge thing like based off this first version and stuff, but I think for the creative types, like just look at a game like Trials Evolution that had a full track editor in it, like the same one the developers used. I tried to make a track and it was difficult. It was terrible. And then some dude makes Lord of the Rings climbing. God, what's the name of the main tower with the eye on the top? What the hell? Why can't I think of the name of that tower?
The Badadur.
Oh, the Mount.
Badadur. That's he made that where you circling around it, and it was like it looked just like it. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? How did this person do this? Like, I looked at the tool set and I'm like, oh, I can plant it. I can put a bush here. I can put a jump here. It's like Excite Bike to me, like the basic shit. And this guy made a Lord of the Rings level, and it was like, holy crap. So Labo maybe won't get to that, but I can see.
I think it will. I think we're gonna start like maybe not now yet, but a month from now, you're gonna start seeing shit where you're like, no, you did not seriously make this with that. It's gonna get absolutely surreal. Yeah. Most people, they're forgetting the most important thing. It's not about us, people. We're not even getting it, most of us. But it's not about us. It's not about the gamers. It's like what T said in a podcast. It's about the schools. It's about the universities. It's about all those people that are going to see what you can do, what you can teach with kids with this stuff. That's what this is going to explode.
And it's already in schools. It's already in schools.
Yeah, we're talking about it. Like, we're like trying to figure out we got to deal with budgets and stuff. That's one problem in schools now. But like, this is something that's being discussed. Like, they want to see what this Labo thing is about. And I get the people who just don't get it. Like, and you just not a creative person. And like, can't you just like move on? Like, like, it's not for me. I'm gonna move on. I don't understand like the disdain, like in people's comments, like they want it to go away. That's the thing that I find strange. It's like, okay, you don't get it. All right, move on.
Yeah, you don't.
This is not for you.
You're not fascinated by someone made a Joy-Con vibration somehow make candy drop. Like, I'd like to know what's inside, like exactly what makes that candy drop in that one. But like, this is just the beginning, and okay, 5 people are going to be into it. Like, it could start out that way, and maybe it is just a phase thing, but somebody's going to come up with something, and
they'll keep on going. Can you remember when people like were doing Mario Maker, and in our minds we're just like, yeah, let's create a funky little level and stuff, and then people were actually doing other things like creating real working calculators. I mean, like you said, the minds that can be so creative, especially when it comes to video games and basic programming, the minds that some people have to create stuff. Labo is a long-term project. That's what it is. It's a continuous long-term project that people will keep on building on and evolving. And Nintendo, I'm hoping, and I'm sure they will keep on evolving with it as well. And it'll get better and better, bigger and bigger. And because some of the stuff that we're seeing now is blowing our minds. Wait until the month down the line.
There's gonna be like Labo channels. I'm telling you.
No, absolutely. No,
I've seen a lot of people streaming it, and I'm not going to go out and pick it up because I don't have that. I've never tried programming anything, so maybe it would be something. It would be fun for me. I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing for me to do, like fun, like to keep my interest. But I'm still impressed by it. And if you don't like any of that, then just watch the cat videos of cats reacting to the RC car. That shit's funny. That's priceless right there. Everyone's cats are just looking at this RC car like, what is this?
I can't wait to mess with my cat with that shit.
Shit was funny, man. It's like cats, internet, and Labo they go so well together. So yeah, maybe in the next couple weeks we'll get some people. Some of us will have some hands-on with it.
Yeah, I'll have it by then.
You know, watching somebody put it together is like not on my list of things to do. Like I'd want to put it together. I don't want to watch somebody put the stuff together.
Well, there's some people who like tried to put it together, got really frustrated, and then started tearing it up. Some YouTuber out there who got really frustrated with his Labo, his robot kit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that robot kit, they said give yourself like 10 hours or 8 hours or something.
Yeah, but some people got it done in 4. Some people got it done in 2.5. Mm-hmm. Some people will take 9. Like, that's just how it works because people's brains work differently. That's just how
I don't rush through stuff like that. I'll sit back, I'll meticulously do the step, like, and look at it. Like if I'm assembling Legos or like if you buy like some kind of furniture, something needs assembly. Like I really I separate all the stuff. I organize, get all my tools. Like I don't I don't just rush through something and just, I'll figure it out. Like I like to take my time. And I think that would be the same for Labo. And it would be the putting everything together would be almost worth the price right there, just because I like doing that kind of stuff. And I might cave and get one of the sets, you never know. But it's definitely intriguing. I can't wait to see what people do with it in the future and some of the stuff people come up with. That's just going to blow our minds in a month. So,
yeah. It's like diaper rash versus Vaseline. Oh, you don't need diaper rash. I'll just use Vaseline. Like some people,
wow, that's an interesting analogy,
like,
buddy.
If you don't have kids, like I don't give a shit about diaper rash. I'll use Vaseline. That's the kind of stuff you're dealing with here. Mm-hmm. People won't be able to get on the same mental wavelength when it comes to this stuff. That's just how it is.
I saw somebody real quick. I want to mention. I saw somebody recreate the Game and Watch ball catching game.
Yeah, that was cool. I saw that.
I can see that.
Which I'm surprised because I'm trying. I mean, they're doing like a cutout. They have the ball catching game cut out in front of it.
Yeah.
But it's still the same basic. There are like light squares dropping down at a certain rate. And you have to hit the button in time in order for it to view it as catching the ball. And even if you drop it, the game is over. The game actually lets you know it's over. So I'm surprised. I wonder how elaborate you can get with it.
I'm waiting for some Rob the Robot type shit. That's what
man, that's some next level shit, man. We're going to take the robot and do all sorts of shit with it.
That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm worried. I want to see.
Does it like programming wise that was most intricate that I saw is just the person that in the past you have like the snake game, and the snake gets longer.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
And the thing couldn't like eat yet and grow longer, but the person basically made a snake that you could control 100% yourself all across the screen and everything. It was insane.
Yeah, it's like I didn't see any of the last few ones you guys mentioned, but I'm just like,
when you saw the mini game, and then you saw the screen that had all the diodes, I think it's called, for the programming. Like that shit looked like it's insane. The amount
it's crazy crowded.
People don't realize that some of these old school games are like insanely more complicated than you would give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Like Snake, you wouldn't think is that complicated. Shit. Shit.
Anytime you got a program like move like a thing on screen moving and like that's just beyond as simple as I mean, even Pong, like back then it took a lot of programming just to make that shit work.
Well, that's why I was tripped out when you see the code for the Snake game, because he hadn't finished it. He only got up to the moving part. He hadn't done the part where you eat the dots and get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
All the code he had was just to get the thing to move around consistently and eat dots without growing larger and whatnot.
And you might have to already have some basic programming skill to do stuff like that, but I don't know, even if let's say out of all the people that buy Labo, if like 100 people find that that's what they want to do with their life, later on in life, like younger people, like that's still, I'm sure it's gonna be way more than that, but I'm just saying it's like even if it affects just a smaller portion of people and makes them decide, hey, this is really cool, I'm gonna do computer programming, and they go on to do something like that. Like that's what we're talking about. Like it's not just a game, and it's not, I'm not impressed. It's not that, you can throw a card in a hat. Well, you can do that without Labo. It's the programming side of it that's cool. So if it ain't cool to somebody else, that's fine. But I think it's pretty impressive. So
yeah.
So next thing, let's get Robert here.
Yes, he is.
He played God of War. So I thought we could get some hands-on impressions since we haven't had like a new game come out in a while where somebody could give some like hands-on impressions of something new. So why don't you go ahead and say how much or how far into the game you are and how you feel about it at this point, and then we can branch off from there. So take it away.
So I played God of War 2018 and and so I'm like 7 hours in, and it is really good. It's really good. I'm enjoying it. Is it so far what it seems like? I don't know if I give it like the 9.5 is what the Metacritic is, 95. I don't think it's literally that, but it is really freaking good. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I know it's a good looking game. I know everyone's all caught up with that, but to be honest, I mean, that's one thing I'll just say is it weird that I'm not fascinated by how good it looks at this point? I feel like there's so many games that look good that I'm like, it doesn't even faze me at all. Like honestly, it really doesn't at all.
I mean, Horizon looks really good, and Horizon has even more of a colorful palette and stuff like.
Yeah, and that's why honestly, like I never really thought about that. I know a lot of people are like, how gorgeous it looks. I'm like, but to be fair, by next year there's going to be a game that looks way better than that, and it's going to already look kind of
by the end of this year. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, that's true. By Red Dead Redemption 2, yeah, and it's like I think it's still a good looking game, but like it's not going to live up by 3 months from now even. So it's like like it's, don't get me wrong, it's a good looking game, and I do like the look of it. But
does it look better than Just Cause 3 on my PC? I don't know about that.
Oh shit!
Does it look better than State of Decay 2?
Yeah, maybe. But like, it's like everything looks so. I don't want to say similar, but also kind of similar to each other. It's like I can't really say that looks so good when it just. I mean, everything looks good, dude. Nothing
we're
looks
at that
bad.
Point
really.
where a lot of top, like I'm playing. I turned on Watch Dogs 2 for the first time Saturday, and I'm like, this game looks like technically really good. Like I didn't realize they made that much improvement over Watch Dogs 1. Like this is a really bright, colorful, like detailed world, and it looks really impressive. And I don't remember hearing hardly anybody talk about how good Watch Dogs 2 looked. So I was surprised that it looked that good, but I mean, I'll get into that in a little bit.
Because it's not an exclusive. We can't talk about how good it looks.
What I will say also, that someone just said it looks better than your PC. If you're talking about my PC, it does not, my guy.
You don't have a pro. Goddamn mouth.
Robert, you talking about my PC neither, son.
Robert, you didn't upgrade to the Pro, did you?
Nah, but like, come on. Like,
what difference
can we just be real there? My PC is gonna destroy regardless. And again, but that's what I mean. Is like every game now, period, looks so similar because it's got that realistic style. So you can, how many ports can you fit? So it's like the same thing still technically, and like regardless,
he's got wrinkles in his eyes and fingers now, but
it looks good. But like,
so
no, y'all just hating. Y'all some Nintendo bad.
I'm just messing.
So
let's not talk about how it looks.
Other than graphics wise, let's talk about some of them nice ass gameplays, and it is a very fun game to play, man. There's a lot of the combat is to me a lot more simpler than obviously something like Bayonetta or something like that. But like what I've noticed is I've been doing a lot of the same. You know how I play my games, like
you don't branch out and try new things.
and so you could buy like certain or upgrade. You could say upgrade your certain abilities, stuff like that. And it is cool, but in the end of the day, it requires more when it's easier for me to just throw my fucking axe at the dude. So it's kind of easier just to do that. And then I have Atreus or Atreus, however you say his name, the kid.
Little boy, it's a kid.
Boy. Kratos just calls him boy, and so I'm gonna just call him boy. Fuck it. And so the whole thing is that he helps you out. You could every time you press like square or something, he'll shoot an arrow. Or like you could also upgrade him so he could basically let's say you're fighting and then you're maybe getting attacked, and he'll run to the enemy and jump on him and stuff. He helps you out sometimes. He's not the greatest dude ever. He's a little boy. We got to give him some credit, And so the whole thing is that he does a good job. He's a good guy, and but I do like controlling Kratos. But another thing that I've noticed that's also really damn cool. I don't know why I said but because that'd be like a negative, but it's what's really damn cool is that actually this whole game is like one shot. It doesn't actually like cut at all.
So there's no loading screens in between areas, is what you're saying?
No, there's not, because it's all, what I mean by that is also like, how like, but like the camera never changes, like the camera never cuts to a different thing. It's always one. It goes to a seaming transition between the cinematics.
That's impressive if it's a movie where it's not just digital.
I was gonna say.
I know.
I keep hearing people say the camera's one shot. This isn't a movie where that's planning.
I know. That's
talk about Orson Welles here. What are we talking about?
I know. Like I like it just because I do like my one shots in movies. So I mean, I get
in
it's
a movie,
not a movie.
Super impressive. In a game, it's all CG. It doesn't. There's nothing.
Even movies cheat that shit now because they can.
They can
fake it. They can fake it like it's one shot.
But
watching Raiders of the Lost Ark this weekend on Friday. Like there's a shot where there's hundreds of extras like in, I don't know if they're in Egypt, and they're like excavating and stuff, and like there's just all this stuff going on in the background. They had to, that wasn't fake. Like they had to have all that going on and then have the actors, doing their parts in the beginning. Like I was wowed by that, because nowadays that should be all CG'd and composite shotted together. But
as we say in the biz, that was all in camera.
Yeah. So to me, in a video game, I hear people saying this. It's like the catchphrase. It's one shot. Like that's a different approach, I guess, for games. Most games don't do that, but
no, exactly. But that's what I mean. It's a different approach for even a cinematic game. It's more a different approach for it.
Real quickly, as it was, it's like that one shot in the beginning of episode 3. But it's all CG. It's all digital. So it's not really impressive when you think about that.
I keep hearing people say that. I'm like, does that mean there's no loading screens? Like,
pretty much. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, there's pretty much no loading that
That's cool as shit.
I'm trying to think. Because like obviously
it's not one shot
when you die, obviously.
Yeah, when you die, but let's say
it's not like when you die it continues the shot like of him resurrecting. No, that does load, obviously, and also same thing with the loading screen. However, unless when you first start, you click start game and Kratos just starts it right away. He grabs the axe. It's like, oh, cool! I thought it was gonna load or something, but he's actually he starts walking, and that's pretty cool. But like, but immersion. I was like, oh shit! But it's a good game. It's actually really good. But I'll admit, I'm obviously I'm a huge movie guy. I love my stories. To be fair, I don't really give a lot of shit about the story. And this is the guy who watches at the minimum 3 movies a week. Like 3 new movies a week. So
I was gonna bring that up because you definitely, nothing gets in the way of your movie watching. Sometimes your gaming gets put to the side, and I've heard people talk about they don't want to spoil nothing, but I've heard not one even hint at what the story versus the dialogue in the relationship between his son. Like that seems to be what people really like. I haven't heard anyone talk about the actual story. Like
the actual story as of what's so far right now is just a straight up. Basically, they're going to this mountain to. It's not a spoiler because it's the beginning of the game.
It's a revenge plot.
It's basically
he's spreading the ashes of his.
Yeah, he's spreading the ashes to this mountain or some shit, and so like, and that's it. That's the whole story. So it's like, all right, cool, nice story, guys. And so it's like, and then you meet creatures and monsters, and they want to fuck you up because you're Kratos, and that's really it. And so that's I know a lot of people have to be like. The cinematic masterpiece of
Marlon Brando.
Sound like Godfather and shit.
Robert, put in your audition. Let's go, man.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking good.
I want your demo reel. Fuck it.
But I just like, to me, it's like, yeah, it's I guess it's a good story, but it's not like anything super entertaining. It's still like it's there's no like character. I feel like it doesn't have like its own, like Last of Us, it had those characters that I was like, oh, I love these two, they're so good. But like Kratos is still this boy, fuck you. That's really like he's just, and then maybe later. I'm sure it's probably going to be pretty predictable because he's probably later on he's going to be more open with his son. He's going to be like, "You want to know the first time I had sex?" Probably some shit like that.
Why is that?
Not literally that, but like it's
the first time I killed a god.
Yeah, like some shit, right?
I did see one snippet where I was like, "That's kind of cool." This huge thing was climbing towards him, and he's like, "You're gonna fight that? Like, you can kill something that big?"
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Yeah, at least that's a nice nod towards the original God of War." I thought,
and it's not like I don't like these characters. They're just, it's cool because it is Kratos. You know what I mean? Oh, look, I'm controlling Kratos. But like, I mean, we'll see later on if it's genuinely maybe as good. But the little connections between them two so far, again, they're not like buddy yet. They're just father is kind of like being a dad while the son's just being a retarded son for right now. It's really it in terms of the story and the connection between them two. And then you got this little like this witch person that's been popping up here and there.
Kind of hot.
Yeah, I bet. No.
I'll bang those ones and zeros.
Put me into the
right VR headset and haptic feedback suit.
Ain't the one. Ain't the one.
What kind of haptics you running? Robert's like, all of them.
Haptic watch.
I can't wait.
Ain't got no HD rumble.
Yeah.
I got a Joy-Con in my butt.
What is happening right now?
I will.
I'm more confused than anything right now.
As of right now, like again, this is a supposed to be like an action hack and slash game at the end of the day too, right? And when you compare it to something that was so fucking good, Bayonetta 2, I'm not as blown away with the combat because like again, and especially the enemies. And the locations.
And you're 7 hours. I know
and
the beginning.
Game.
The beginning.
And I think the game. I think I was looking at the game was like 18 hours. Like I was looking at how
20.
Yeah. So like,
are you gonna finish it this year, though, Rob? That's what it is.
Robert always finishes the PlayStation exclusives, man. Other than Horizon.
Oh, does he? Okay.
I haven't seen them.
Exposed.
I haven't seen many comparisons of this God of War and Bayonetta 2 because Bayonetta 2 in itself is a cinematic action game.
Yeah, and like, but to me, it's like what was crazy is that how in Bayonetta 2, like there'll be some big ass fucking creature, and like, holy shit, that's massive, and you're about to fight it, and you do fight it, and you're controlling everything. There's a lot of times when like you want to do the pretty epic parts in God of War, but instead it's a cinematic, and you're like, man, fuck you, Kratos, I'm supposed to be you, and it's like
it cuts to. Oh, I didn't know that.
No, well, you know how like so when you do like you fight like maybe one of the bigger bosses, and again the bigger bosses are still not as big as compared to like those Bayonetta bosses are insane, and so but like when you do the you do like you click in the right stick, then it goes into he grabs the head, he start mushing all that kind of stuff, but you don't normally control. I think I controlled it once or whatever, but like there was other than that, like everything else he breaks this head and it's like, oh cool gore, but like I didn't do that.
But I'd rather watch it than do QT, quick time events because I think that's annoying.
The game, you know what I mean?
I don't mind. See, you might say this.
That was always God of War, though, wasn't it? The original God of War.
God, I hated the quick time event. I don't mind button mashing because that just kind of adds to my adrenaline. Like when you got to figure out which button.
The one time that I was able to use it was button mashing. The other ones you didn't. You know what I mean? Like you just
when you got to like wait and it's like, oh, it's Y, hit Y, and then next time and you died, and then like, oh, I'm ready for Y, and then triangle, and then next time it's circle. Like I don't like. To me, that's quick time events is really that turns me off. I'd rather just.
There aren't any in this game though, right? There aren't.
Not that I know.
No, I think you just hit R3 and then it.
Yeah, it's like it's just like your punt, like you just like button mash, basically what you said, and also, what I've noticed again, Breath of the Wild has spoiled the fuck out of me. Where it's like every single time I walk into something, it just stops. You know what I mean? Like because there's an invisible barrier everywhere. And I'm like, fuck. I know this is a linear game. I get it, but like it's like, oh look, I have to climb up this white or yellow painted wall. Okay, let me paint that.
Yeah, I heard there was some exploration stuff where you can find, but I was kind of hoping it was a little more open.
No,
but
it's not.
It seems like you can
nearly
only climb.
Yeah.
Where it tells you can climb. You just
Oh,
got to
no,
find.
yeah.
Just got to find the right. Like maybe you have to search to find the spot where you can climb. Because I heard someone say you could get to this one area there. Just had an example. Had exploration where you could actually get to the top of this off the beaten path and get some
exploration
stuff to yeah. That's where I was kind of getting my interest was piqued when I heard that.
I don't think, to me at least, what I've seen, exploration not as big as they what's it called, say it is, at least.
Yeah, because like I'm replaying Doom trying to find all the secrets, and there's a shit ton of exploration in Doom, and I think a lot of people just kind of blast their way through, and there's a lot of hidden little secret areas and getting to
I love that stuff. I love that stuff in Doom.
If someone's like, oh man, it has a lot of that, then I might go out and get the game like now instead of waiting until later on when it's probably gonna be $40 and
yeah.
See, here's my problem with God of War is that I didn't like the old ones, and I don't like Kratos, the character. Like I bought all of them. I bought God of War on the PS2, then I ended up getting a collection right on PS3, the HD with it had the two PSP ones on there, so I got that. I actually still have one of the PSP one games. So I buy them, but they just do not stick. Okay, and then you can say, well, this game is a lot different. And I look at it, and everybody's initial thing was Last of Us. And I'm like, well, I didn't like Last of Us either. So how am I? You can't make me like this game if none of this stuff vibe with me. And the thing about Last of Us is that I was really hyped to play Last of Us because people were hyping me up, including people in this podcast.
Even I was talking. Yeah.
You talked it up. Robert, you talked it up too, right?
Yeah,
I went out and got the remastered version for PS4, and it was cool in the beginning, but it died pretty quickly for me because I play story-based games. I've played them for a long time, like starting on PC back in maybe 98, 99 is when I really got into like these deep story games. And so I'm not overly impressed with a game that does, a really cool story or whatever. And I watched a ton of movies. So when a game that, when a game is about the story, like I play a lot of those. I play like point and click adventures. Like when that's what it's about, I get that. Like I can get into those. But when you have 60% of the game is, gameplay, you're running around doing stuff, and I'm not overly impressed with the story, then what am I supposed to do? It just doesn't work for me. So that was the thing about God of War. Like I never cared about Kratos as a character. He never vibed with me and in the old ones. And so with the whole Last of Us aspect of the new one, I definitely I'm not feeling that either. So I'm just like, it's not for me.
Well, I want to steer it into a direction, and Clocked it. I'll have you, if you can remember, what did BBC, the British broadcast company, say that don't review games? What did they say about God of War?
They said something like, we have to relook at how we consider like cinematic games, thanks to God of War.
I think it was about the complex story. It's like, this is... Game's gonna have to be on notice. What the hell? Like we're gonna have to be prepared for games like
with more complex stories. That's
having complex stories like this, and first of all, like what the fuck is BBC chiming in on a game when they don't ever talk about games? And then the other angle I wanted to get to, talk about, which will, Robert kind of hit on something too. I want to talk about Bayonetta 2 comparison, and so, but finish what you were gonna say. You had something I think you were going to say, and I cut you off.
No, I was kind of just following off from T, but I mean, I played the other God of Wars. I played them all. I love the first game. The first game's really good. The second game was okay, and then by the time you get to the third game, Kratos is an absolute prat, and you hate him, and it spoils the whole game. Even though the game itself is okay. But the one thing that's been getting to me about God of War's hype at the moment is the whole cinematic nature that people are saying like as a revelation. This whole cinematic type of gaming, and this puzzles me a bit because I feel like we've been playing cinematic games, and what I mean by cinematic, those games I feel like you're playing in a movie or a short story or something. And I can think back to two games just off the top of my head. You got Final Fantasy VI. Now I'm gonna use Final Fantasy VI as an example first. If you remember the intro to Final Fantasy VI, and if anyone's played it,
Greatest intro ever.
yeah, and the intro to that is the Magitech armor suits, and you got Sid and Terra, and I think walking over the snowfields, right? You got the credits, intro credits rolling. You got this wonderful cinematic thing. The music's going. That's a movie-like intro. Okay, so we're being introduced back in the 16-bit era, even games before this, introduced to what movies and storytelling can be like in video games. Now, the second game, in terms of when I really felt like I was playing a movie, was Another World. Or I think you called it Out of This World.
Out of This World.
Yeah, in the US. Now, Out of This World, that the whole game was about 2 hours long, and the way that started is exactly how, in a sense, God of War plays, how Uncharted plays, how Tomb Raider plays today. As in, you have these dramatic cutscenes that seamlessly go into gameplay, back into cutscenes, etc. Now, Another World done this. You get sucked into the computer. You have to swim up from the water. All this happening in real time. Felt like a cutscene first of all, but it's all real time. You get out of the water. Next thing you know, you look across and it's a giant black creature, and you run across and he starts chasing you. You have to jump in real time, swim across the rope, go to a cutscene when you're in a cell. This is stuff that's been around for years.
And let me just point something out. I don't think the chat quite understands this part of the conversation. We're pointing out that somebody's making a claim that right now, because of God of War, that these games need to focus on more complex cinematic stories. Like that's not been something that's been happening for 30 years. That's what this whole thing is about. I think there's some people in the chat don't quite understand. That's
that's pretty much it. You go back, you have all these cutscenes seamlessly going into gameplay. You have the text or the dialogue. If you go back a bit later on, you have all this stuff that's always been. I just feel like we need to define what people are talking about here, and I feel like what people are talking about are the new increase in dramatic camera angles, the narrative. Although I will argue the narrative in many games prior to this have been just as engaging, captivating, thought-provoking as anything else that you have. If sometimes I'll say more than we have today. People big up The Last of Us and God of War and all these games as cinematic storytelling masterpieces, when I'm just like, no, kiss my ass. I can name you 20 games that done this before. But I feel like as we go on now talking, I think we need to define what people class as a cinematic game. I think these boundaries are so narrow. You start realizing you have been playing many of these games before.
Yeah, because when someone says something like that, it just tells me they haven't been paying attention to the gaming industry for very long. You can't make such a false statement, like acting like games haven't had complex stories or like deep meaning to it. I mean, not that long ago. This is only a few years. I think 2013 when BioShock Infinite came out. Like the end of that game, like stuck with me. Like that was some thought out, some trippy ass, like wow, like that's a complex story fit into a game 5 years ago. Like why is it why is God of War the like in BBC's mind, like now it's time for these types of games where it's like that's been done before.
I mentioned it myself. I think it was in Hangouts where I talked about one of my favorite series that was like emotionally like stressful, kind of like heart-wrenching cinematic game series, The Longest Journey. Like The Longest Journey, the Dreamfall, The Longest Journey, the second one, like that had me shook like for months after I played that game. Like that story was so intricate, and you get really in with the character, especially the character Chloe that you're controlling, and you meet all these people, and there's all these cool different worlds, and it just hits you. Like, so this, to me, this stuff is nothing new. Like even Heavy Rain, like I got really into Heavy Rain too, and then I thought that story was like crazy too. So it's just this isn't anything new. I don't know why people are acting like this.
Let's go a little bit back and to a topic we were talking about the other day, which was Shenmue. Yeah, like now Shenmue does exactly the same thing, where you will be running down street. You do it manually first of all, then it'll take over to a cutscene. You do a quick time event, the action flowing like a Hong Kong kung fu movie. Yeah, you get into full-on dialogues and all this stuff. Now, the voice acting, doesn't hold up as well today. But in terms of the background story, you've got the content there, and the way the game flows is no real different to the way modern games flow today, like Tomb Raider, like Uncharted, because you are going through these action set pieces with mild control over the character, and that's what you do today. And if you want an even more real-time game, or two games, Half-Life 1 and 2, especially Half-Life 2, which was all real-time.
Oh man, yeah.
All cinematic, brilliant voice acting.
That's true.
All stunning graphics for this time, and the set pieces in that game, my God, they were full real-time, where you would actually, if you wanted the crane to swing down, you'd have to do it yourself. The set piece was set up there for you, but if you didn't action it in a certain way, that wouldn't activate. You'd have to then rethink to do something else. That was real-time cinematic experience. Half-Life 1 and 2 as well. And those are older games. We're going back to
Half-Life was 2000, early 2000s.
The first thing that I always have to think of then, like when people say incredible cinematographic graphic game and all that shit, like the retro gamer in me kicks in, and I'm like, but back in the day, if you were there, we had shit like Ninja Gaiden, where not only you had like actual animated fucking cutscenes on the NES already, and basically they like controlled the game, and in between you just walk from one cutscene to the other. That's basically what it is. The only difference between God of War and Ninja Gaiden is that Ninja Gaiden actually has extreme interactive gameplay added to it.
I mean, I had forgotten about Half-Life. People be crying about Half-Life for like over a decade. They would
talk about Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 on the PlayStation 1s. They were the first Final Fantasies to mix real-time CGI effects when you're in control of your character running through the FMV sequence as it pans around cinematically and all this stuff. If you remember when you're controlling Cloud in Final Fantasy 7, climbing up to the high wind for the first time or whatever, you're running. I mean, the game slows down immensely because of the hardware at the time. But it didn't matter. The FMV played in the background, it spun round, and you had this massive cinematic background that looks stunning for this time, and you're controlling your character to move a little bit through that cinematic background. That's what we're doing today.
We're not saying like there's nothing like I'm saying God of War story isn't good or anything, but what we're just saying is that
we're actually talking about the statement
compelling
by a non-gaming review place had to throw out this claim, and it's like it's just basically the premise or the idea behind bringing that up was what happens when the hype train gets rolling and then people start just seeing things or making statements, and it's like everybody wants to chime in. And we just want to remind people that, gaming's been going on for a long time. And I remember, I don't know if it was Chrono Trigger or Secret of Mana. One of those two games got me, like the heartstrings. And because I played, which the one where you could play, and it played more like Zelda, where you kind of swing, you're kind of like
Secret of Mana.
Secret of Mana. I played that one, but then I watched my buddy play Final Fantasy 3 in the US. That's what we called it. That's what they still call it on the Super NES Classic. And Chrono Trigger. And I remember being affected by the stories, watching him play, and like that. Like,
dude, the story of Final Fantasy 6 is just it's the best of the series. Don't even.
I agree.
So just kind of pointing out that games have been having impactful stories for a very long time, and that's
I just wanted to. I mentioned those other games because I wanted to also counter. I don't want to counter God of War. I'm sure God of War is a great game. I'm going to play it. I'm looking forward to playing it. I just want to remind people that it's not the first time we have been here. It's not the first time that we have been here, and it just bugs me when people forget history and try to big up the new. And you can big up the new; it can still be great, but don't forget the greatness that came before. Set the standards for how that game got to where it is.
Because it just makes you sound ignorant at the end of it. It's like, I can name you 1,000 games that have really compelling stories. And Detroit Become Human, I'm sure, has an amazing story. Like, come on,
it's better because that's the main draw of those.
That's the main draw. Yeah. So it's just like these guys obviously don't play video games, so them saying that kind of thing is just kind of
not to ignore the fact that last year Zelda was the hype train. Everybody's coming out of the woodwork to talk about it. It was a little different because most people were focusing on the open world and the freedom, so it wasn't the story or the cinematic experience, so it was still it was like the hype train had been hit a level like God of War's approaching, like it was everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. And to me, the difference for me is from what my gaming what's important to me in game, it's different when people talk about the actual gameplay and the game design versus just the story part of it. But I want to get back onto what Robert brought up, Bayonetta 2, because I was trying to think even before you said that, like Bayonetta 2 has a lot of cinematic awesome moments. It has some ridiculous dialogue moments that are just nonsense, like the swearing, the out of place like F-bombs and stuff that just don't fit with what else was going on, some silly characters and over the top stuff. But when Robert started talking about it, like there are those moments when that music, that like orchestra, like angel, like this huge angel like boss comes in and that music kicks in with the organ, like those
the orchestral organ,
just that music kicks in. Like to me that invokes like a awesome cinematic type feeling, and then you go on and you're just whooping the ass of this thing, like with mostly gameplay, and then you have the little button mashing moments that are just known Platinum loves to do and stuff. Like but I never would consider that a cinematic action game because I put 65 hours into it, and only on the first playthrough did I watch the cinematics. So most of my memory of that game, is just solid gameplay, skipping the cutscenes. But thinking about it now, like it did have quite a few actual cutscenes, and there was some pretty cool like action. You want to talk about one shot in God of War? There was some really cool action choreography in the cinematics of Bayonetta 2, like super cool.
I did a whole video on the intro to Bayonetta 2, which is a cinematic roller coaster action fest of titanic proportions. It's relentless from start to finish. As soon as she kicks that airplane up in the air, she jumps on the airplane, and the whole sequence is non-stop until you defeat that giant dragon at the top of that spiral building. It's just
the whole prologue,
immense, incredibly immense. And one thing I'll say about Bayonetta 2 is, now I don't know what happens in God of War in terms of Kratos' abilities or how they convey into some of the cutscenes, the cinematics, but normally everything that you see Bayonetta do in cutscenes is what she can do in your hands as well, in control. And it was a complaint about when Vanquish came out. When Vanquish came out, you saw the main character, Sam Gideon, I can't remember his name. He'd be doing moves in the cutscenes that you couldn't do actually in game. So you had the super suit on, and even though Vanquish was freaking awesome, there were some moves that he'd be doing in the cutscenes. Like, man, why can't I do that move?
Metal Gear Solid 4, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, why would you put that in there? And I can't even do it myself. I got a super suit. Let me do it. And I don't know if that's going to be the same for God of War. I can imagine, because it was the same
going to be
for the other God of Wars, where Kratos would be flying around giant monsters with his chains and stuff, but you couldn't do that in game. So it's
from what I've seen already in God of War, like because I don't play it yet myself, but I've seen because I wanted to make sure that my opinion that I had beforehand was the same after, and I've seen 3 different people play the beginning, and basically you get like cutscenes where he's picking up rocks and he's picking up trees and he's fighting with them, and he's like holding enemies down, and none of that shit you can actually do it when you're playing. I mean, if you're such a god of war, why can't you, for example, at the very least, like, pick up a fucking tree and hit somebody with it?
Is this you mean he can pick up trees in certain set pieces, but not generally use them as weapons within gameplay? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's always been, like I said, Metal Gear Solid 4 was probably the worst because Snake was this acrobatic ninja, could do anything, and Red Knight always likes to point out. Then you actually get into the game, and you have your your 3-punch combo, and that's about it. Maybe a kick. So I mean, games have been doing that for a long time, but getting back to Bayonetta 2, like that was a pretty cinematic game. Everyone, most people that played it hailed the gameplay and controls for being top notch. But why? And that was that
the story was bonkers though.
Yeah, that game was praised. It definitely got 10s and was highly, Metacritic's really high. But what's holding it back from getting the kind of, is it the quirky Japanese nature of the story? You think that's
no? It just doesn't take itself as seriously as God of War does.
Yeah, that's another thing. Is
God of War is like melodramatic and shit.
Yeah.
Bayonetta 2 is like, it has a story it wants to tell, and it's pretty straightforward with that story. But it's also very openly goofy with its story. Like, it does not give a damn about trying to make things. I get, and I will probably say it's part of it is this Japanese nature. It's way more into that traditional.
I'd probably go more along the lines as well. That is, I absolutely love her, but Bayonetta is very overly sexualized, and that can turn a lot of people off. And like you said, look at it in a very goofy way.
I'd rather see heads.
Legs are like longer than the rest of a bloody body.
Yeah. Well, they'd rather see people getting dismembered than seeing some sexual.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Like, how is the repeated murder of multiple different characters? Like, oh, that's great. That's great storytelling. That's character development. But fuck, man, her legs are like 2 inches longer than the rest of her body, man. That can't watch this shit.
It's a strange Puritan country we live in.
It is, but
I mean, it's funny how
if I was going to play God of War and Bayonetta 2 in front of my kids, okay, which one could I justify the most? If I show them Bayonetta 2 and she's pretty much butt naked, slapping an angel horse on the ass with her guns and looks like she's loving it, and you just got Kratos who's going around murdering monsters. Yeah, I think that's some of the issues that you have with Bayonetta as a character. I say issues because I love her. I love the fact that you can have this type of confident, almost narcissistic character, and she got no shame. People like that in the world exist, and I'm great. I'm so happy that Bayonetta exists.
I wouldn't mind if they just maybe hired some better writers to, like, instead of just having Enzo just be that stereotypical Italian dropping F-bombs, that it just didn't, he doesn't fit with, really, to me, like,
he should have been in the game.
Like, it just doesn't work in the first game he was in there. Like, it just feels out of place. Like, I wouldn't mind if they,
forget about it.
Just got a little bit less silly.
Well, he's not in the game in both games. He's not in the games much.
Not much. I'm just saying, like,
he's more of just for basic comedics.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But he's not funny.
I think Luca's
I agree
funnier.
to disagree on that one. That's what I'll say.
I think Luca has some really funny moments. I like that kind of stuff, but I mean, everyone.
Well, Luca also has a character dynamic with Bayonetta. That's part of the reason why I like him. I honestly think it's just the way Bayonetta wants to tell its story. Bayonetta, I mean, to be real, both of the games are literally the same plot line, just in a slightly variant way. Not giving any spoilers to the second game, which is technically a spoiler to the first game too. But that's a whole nother issue. Bayonetta just is not worried about. It's pretty. I think the thing about Bayonetta is very unapologetic about being the way it is. And so it's like either you love me or you hate me. And either way, I'm going to do what the fuck I'm going to do.
Yeah. And
I don't want it to be, because in terms of writing, I think the third game seems to be the most, it seems to already going in that direction of shaking up But as far as the first two games are going, it just kind of hit that nice indirect thing where you're doing something relatively serious, but we want you to have fun while doing it and not try to hit you with all these unnecessary emotions of, oh man, what about these livelihoods of these angels? What dichotomy am I messing up with by killing all these? It's like, no, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm just trying to get some halos and save this guy who can turn into a squirrel for some fucking reason.
Yeah, I'm sure we sound like, or some of us sound like just complete Nintendo fanboys, but I said this, and I mean this. Like, people can choose to believe me or not. If they show off Bayonetta 3 footage and it's her walking slowly through like a forest with that younger version of herself, like, I don't care how good the graphics look. If they took away that combo system and the witch time and all that, I'm gonna be fucking pissed.
Side note, apparently Kratos has witch time, according from what I've seen.
Always got the parry kind of move that Link has with the shield.
No, I mean literally he'll dodge and it'll slow down time for a second.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw it's like in one of the third or fourth.
It's a good mechanic. I mean,
it is a good mechanic.
Like I pointed out in my Juice opinions, going from God of War 1 through 4 Ascension, not this new one. There was just this limited dodge roll ability, and then Bayonetta's is basically a dodge roll, but if you time it right, it becomes witch time. So now you're waiting for them to you want them to attack you so you can dodge to do the witch time to help your combo or keep your combo going or do more damage. Like that one little change added so much to the actual gameplay of Bayonetta 1 and 2. It was a simple little just time your dodge and now you slow things down. Like that was such a brilliant addition to just the dodge mechanic that a lot of other action games had. And I was like, would Bayonetta 2 and let me finish what I was saying about Bayonetta 3. Like seriously, if they show this slow, methodical, story-driven game where her moveset's really stripped down and all that, like I'm gonna be mad, and I don't want that. Now I don't need Bayonetta 3 to be exactly like 2 and even go to the same areas. Like Bayonetta 2 kind of retread some areas like from the first game. You got to see it from kind of a different angle and from a different perspective, but I don't want Bayonetta 3 to just kind of be almost a remake of Bayonetta 2. Like I do want to see some things changed or expanded upon or improved upon.
That's why I thought it was weird when you guys started talking about God of War 4 versus Bayonetta, because in my head it's like God of War 1, 2, and 3 versus Bayonetta. I can understand those games kind of play very similar, but God of War 4, that's like it's not that's because God of War 4 is not even God of War anymore. So it's
a different kind of game. It's like a more action oriented version of The Last of Us.
Well, because it's still
a reboot.
It's still like an action game.
It's more. It's probably one of the more action oriented Last of Us Uncharted type games. That's what it comes off.
The whole thing is that it has a big cinematic story. Basically covering it all, you know what I mean? So
because you do still have, it's still an action game, but it's not like there's a specific category that used to be like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, and the original God of Wars. That's a specific style, and Platinum is doing that now also with Nier, for example. But it's new God of War 4. It's not that. It's just not that.
Yeah, and like I said, T said, I didn't care for the original series, so I don't mind the change for me because I wasn't a fan, but I don't want Bayonetta 3 or Bayonetta to make a change like that at this point. Maybe after 3 games of a similar, but I think
I wouldn't even say that because we don't have that many games that do that gameplay style anymore.
Yeah.
Like Bayonetta is like the only game currently I can think of, and I guess technically Nier, but
Nier kind of.
That's still the same developer.
The thing that still comes closest to it is Darksiders 2, which is something I'm really looking forward to. Darksiders 3, because Darksiders 3 is going to play how God of War 4 should be playing.
Darksiders 3, I watched gameplay. It does remind me of the God of War series. So, but for God of War, for me personally, I don't mind a change. I thought it kind of needed one. I don't know if it needed to be.
It needed a change. I just felt like they went too far in one direction. It went too far in another direction. From what I heard, part of the reason why was because they originally did pitch another God of War game, and they were like, "Nah, don't make just another God of War game." And so they said, "Fuck it, we're gonna go back to the drawing board," and decide to go. Well, fuck it, you guys like your cinematic games. Let's just see how action oriented we can make that game. And so that's what we got.
Yeah, and it's the other thing that's shit, I lost my point. There's another thing. I mentioned that it's basically a reboot. It's not a remake, it's not a remaster. They rebooted the series. They gave it the same name as the first game, which I don't care if it's games or movies, nothing pisses me off more. It's such a big pet peeve, like Battlefront. Why the fuck is that not Battlefront 3? Like, why did you just now you got Battlefront 2 original, and then you have Battlefront 2015, Battlefront 2 2017. Like, I don't understand why they do that with movies and everything. So continuing on this, people caught up in the God of War hype train. YouTube channel, which I like the guy, the EP network. I forget the dude's name. He makes way too many videos and stuff, but he's got a nice set, and he's got, some access to interviews and stuff, because he's been in the industry for a long time. And he put the top 10 games that need a God of War reboot.
Okay.
And within the first minute, he threw out a term, and I don't remember exactly, something like industry revolutionizing type of game like God of War, or something like to that extreme. And the first fucking game, and this is going to be obviously hit home for some others, and others might say, oh my God, totally true, was fucking Metroid needs a reboot. And he talked about how we need to know about Samus's upbringing and how she became a bounty hunter. Like, all this stuff, nothing to do with gameplay, and I'm just like, really?
Isn't that Other M? Pretty much.
He even mentioned Other M.
That's the funny thing. Everybody shitted on Other M. I was one of the few that defended it, but that is what you're describing when you're doing that shit.
Yeah, you're essentially talking about Other M.
Yeah.
Except I think they want it to a more extreme degree, and I agree. I like aspects of Other M, but at the same time, people are acting like what God of War was on some next level shit. God of War literally just took a really popular established gameplay idea, which would be like the Uncharted, their Last of Us gameplay style, and then just added a bunch more action
elements. And a popular character that didn't really have a game.
Wow, and I mean, Kratos.
I mean, he was like the one guy everybody wanted to play as in PlayStation All-Stars. I don't know what that says.
But my whole point is like it's not like people are like what God of War did was some next level shit. I'm like, that's not. I mean,
we've seen this, but
yeah, we've seen this. I mean, I would. It's almost the same argument some people would made against Breath of the Wild, where like, oh, Breath of the Wild just did essentially what another gameplay genre did. They just finally went open world. And I'm like, yeah, but even then, you can still say that Breath of the Wild added a bunch of shit that wasn't already in open world games. What the fuck does God of War add in terms of those Last of Us style games that makes it next level? Except for, well, that sounds like a limitation. That doesn't sound like an advantage.
But and just to be fair to talk about Breath of the Wild, after Breath of the Wild, everyone's like, you gotta make open world, you gotta add RPG elements, not just making fun of OJ, but like literally, you gotta add things to all these type of games now. You gotta do this and do that. It's like not every game needs to get Breath of the Wild, treatment. Not every game, and then just the whole ludicrousy of God of War being like this absolute revolutionary type game just kind of was ridiculous. And when I saw the first game, I was like, you know what, I can't watch this video anymore. I got to give it a thumbs down. And it was probably the best I've ever felt about giving a video a thumbs down. And it's like, really, now every game needs to be so story focused and like have this complex relationship between two characters. And
well, the problem is, it's not even that. It's still the most basic of fucking stories. I mean, it's still, we're gonna go deliver your mom's ashes to the top of a mountain. I don't want you.
It's a father-son.
I don't want you to know about my dark secret of killing God, son. As you slowly learn about my dark secret of killing God, son. And it's like, is that really on some next level shit? No.
One thing I want to add is I don't want to. We don't want to get into Breath of the Wild too much. You know what happens, but
yeah, you do.
but
You're looking for that excuse. There, he's open up the window for it.
In terms of what wanting what Breath of the Wild does in everything, I think a lot of people look at the obvious, which is a big open world, right? But not so much for me. I think more games can use the subtleties that it done, with the physics engine, with the use of the elements and stuff like that. Because I'm gonna chew out one of Juice's favorite games here a bit, which is Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now I was playing this just before the podcast, and I got to a puzzle, and in there you needed to get these explosive barrels to knock down this statue, and what was holding up the statue were planks of wood. So I'm like, okay, let me shoot this one explosive barrel. It blows up. The statue starts falling a little bit more, and she's like, "Oh, I need 2 more explosive barrels now. Wonder how I can get those." I was like, "What the fuck? I need some explosive barrels for? I got explosive arrows, man." I aimed at the planks of wood. Woo boom.
Nothing.
Woo boom. Just simple things like that, where your character is given the tools to do things, because just before early in the game you use those explosive arrows to blow up massive wooden doors in order to get through them. Why can't I just blow up this little wooden structure here?
It's not consistent.
That's game design right there.
Yeah, so that's what we need. That's what Breath of the Wild done.
Yeah,
well, even Wind Waker did that, where you could the bridge that you had to get down below on like the first dungeon.
You can cut the ropes and stuff.
You can either cut it or you can set them on fire. Like,
I mean, Wind Waker is a bit more, restricted to certain things.
Yeah,
but you can see it there being built up, ready for where Zelda's gotten to today. But that's what I need more in games today. That's what I'm struggling with the most. As Rob said earlier, it's coming off Breath of the Wild. Experience those things that you could do with the tools that you had that just work with the world, and coming back to something else, and you're like, oh, God damn it, why can't I just climb over this stupid little fence by here? Why are they blocked by this fence? Why? It's things like that which what Breath of the Wild exceeds in more than anything else.
I totally agree with that, because it seems like the problem, the direction it seems like a lot of games are taking now is that we need to make this restrictive experience that looks amazing and tells this one story, and you can really only play the game maybe like one type of way, instead of actually taking what you already have in games, like the environments. You already got to have themes for these fucking levels. Why don't you use that to your advantage and have these different type of environments actually play into the levels puzzles, instead of this fucking, oh, well, here's a wooden barrel. I have shit on me that can catch it on fire, but it only works in a certain context.
Well, yeah, it's something I've been worried about for years. You remember when Deus Ex Mankind Divided came out, and you can go anywhere in Deus Ex, climb on the roofs, go through the sewer systems and all this stuff, and then every time pointed out, but you can't get through this door because it's blocked by cardboard boxes that you can't move, because you're this mechanized, like these android pretty much, who got all these powers, and then because they decide just to add in some background color, just to make like an invisible barrier, it still takes you out of it, because the invisible barrier makes no sense to your character.
I mean, those are good things, but I think when people talked about games getting the Breath of the Wild treatment, they weren't thinking of those little subtle little things that could, like, they focused on, you can climb, or you can look at how big the world is, and you can do things in any order and this and that. Like, I mean, yeah, that stuff's cool, but not. And I talked about, I wouldn't mind if Rise of the next Tomb Raider or Uncharted, maybe next generation, tried something like that, and you just had tombs. You could just go be go raid the tombs at your own leisure and stuff like that. So some games I think that'd work, others no. But I think just about any game, and even some of Nintendo's, I mean, not every game they've made has lived up to or had those Zelda-like moments, but Horizon Zero Dawn.
I want it in the next Metroid. I want those type of things in the next Metroid. Metroid Prime 3 had similar things to like the Wind Waker level, where if you use your flamethrower on certain things, it would melt down certain barriers and stuff like this. But you need to go to the next gen, the next level now, to that Breath of the Wild level, where your plasma beam and your ice, you can shoot your ice onto any water surface and make it create platforms that you could jump on, or freeze waterfalls that you could climb up with your grapple beam or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to go to Metroid Prime 4. I'll be in all night. So.
God, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about, but all this other discussion.
Sorry.
It's all right. So any other thought? I mean, it sounds like we've been obviously we're not. It's not really. I don't really want to. It's not towards the game necessarily. It's just people riding the hype train and gotten to ridiculous levels at times, and it does. Uncharted 4 it happened with, some people probably think Mario Odyssey. I didn't see as much for Mario Odyssey, but at the time I kind of disagreed with some of the hype for, saying it's the next Mario 64. I've come around and enjoyed it a lot more in my second playthrough, but still, I don't think the fever got up to that type of level where people are like, games need the Mario Odyssey treatment. It's just like. No. I think it's just more the reaction people are having that's kind of interesting to me because other than Robert, no one's played the game. I'm planning on picking it up at some point this year. And
I bought every other God of War. Even though I don't care, I'm sure eventually I'm going to get it. So.
Pharrell's got the PS4 Pro. You might as well get it.
No, don't tell me. Hey, I got better games to play. So. Not games I give a fuck. Because just real quick, I'm pretty indifferent towards God of War. I think the biggest issue, and I think this might sum up what Juice's issue is that the game seems to be getting a lot more praise than realistically it seems like it should be getting. Okay, fine, it's a good game. Fine, it's another great exclusive to add to Sony's repertoire. It's cool. Not when the fuck when did this God of War turn into a genre-defining next level game? All games should start emulating what God of War did. I think that's the problem. It's been elevated like it's some type of you'll remember this game for the next 3 or 4 generations. And I'm like, no, the fuck you won't. Why is this game getting put on that level of a pedestal? What is this game doing that justifies that level of praise?
Because you got to justify your purchase, man.
I think honestly, without having played God of War yet, but I think to me Horizon's more of an impressive feat considering what Guerrilla Games was known for before. Their Killzone games, going from that to what they've achieved in Horizon, other than the human AI and those encounters, they made a pretty impressive game and had some good fundamental mechanics. I mean, yeah, it's restricted by something waist high you couldn't even jump over. There's those limitations that before Breath of the Wild, I guess we didn't really notice as much. But I'm thinking for the next one, there's a lot of little things they could expand upon, and it could become a great, series. They got a good foundation. To me, I'm more impressed by what Guerrilla Games did, considering where they came from with the series they did before, than I am with what I've seen. In Santa Monica Studios, I think is pretty highly regarded. But other than the other God of War games, I'm not sure what games they have under their belt. They helped with the Order 1886, but I don't. Does anybody even know what other games Santa Monica has?
No, I don't remember. That's what I was thinking about, but I forgot to look it up.
I know they're pretty well renowned by people, so let me look up real quick.
Santa Monica
Studios, I believe,
has done. It says the other God of Wars.
A lot of God of Wars.
PlayStation All Stars
1999. Yeah, I think basically God of War 1 came out in what was it, 2004, 3 or something. So yeah, it's all their history. But the thing is, I just feel, and this is my opinion, obviously, it just feels like people see the pores, the wrinkles, the detail, the graphics. There is some really good art direction, I will say. I've seen some later stages that look completely fantastical, fantasy.
Yeah, there's one that I went to. It's a forest looking place. It looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good art direction there, but
you just need to respect other people's opinions.
I can't help but
what I'm saying, man.
That's when you know T hit that wall. He was like, man, y'all just on some bullshit, y'all. You don't know.
The thing is, like,
I would like to talk to you.
We'll get on the whole accepting other people's opinions thing, because I think there's a misconception about what that some people think that means. But anyway, I just can't get over this. I feel like it's the graphics, the raw visual fidelity of God of War that's got people so acting, crazy and hyping this game up. Now, Uncharted 4 was a great looking game, and it got a lot of the same praise. And I gave that game an 8 out of 10. Like the year it came out, I forget where it was in my top 5. I don't know if it was number 3 that year. Oh wait, I played it after. When did that game come out? 2016.
It was May of 2016. Yeah.
So yeah, I played it the year it came out. So I think it was number 3 on my game of the year list, if I remember correctly. So it still was a good game by my standards. It was way better than I expected and way better than the previous game, Uncharted 2, which I'd played. I felt from the game mechanics. So I'm not opposed to giving a game a good score, but I was skeptical of Uncharted 4, and it was pleasantly surprising to me until like the end was just a ridiculous quote unquote boss fight. But so I'm expecting God of War to be a good game. I just feel it's those visuals that really get people and kind of leads the whole discussion. And I got to give Zobi70 some props, even though he's like the biggest troll with his titles of his videos, even though he absolutely shitted on Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I think he put 30 hours into it, and then he just said he thinks it's a terrible game. Don't agree with that, but
yeah, fuck you, sir.
Yeah, exactly. But he brought up a really good point, and I got to give him props. He listened to the video reviews of these past like cinematic games like Horizon and Uncharted 4 and now God of War. And the reviewers, like, all of a sudden pull out their thesaurus or encyclopedias, and all of a sudden you're hearing these like words you'd never hear in a game review before. It's almost like they feel like, I got to prove, I actually have a college degree and
a journalism degree, man.
It's like all of a sudden they're like the dichotomy of whatever, I forget. And it's like, what are they even saying? And he's like, listen to what they're not saying anything except words that sound, they're big words
bombastic
to most people. And he's like, and he's playing them, and it's like, holy shit, you're right. And like, he had a 3-hour live stream, and I watched almost 2.5 hours of it. Like, it was just so entertaining, but I could not, like, that was just profound to me. Like, it's like, why do you got to pull out these big words just because it's a cinematic story driven game? Now you got to make yourself sound smarter and make the game sound smarter. It's still a game. Like, it's just kind of, I thought that was funny. And I know I got some reaction because I liked the video, and the title of his video is God of War's Garbage, Don't Buy It, or something like that. He loves his clickbait titles. But man, I think he was spot on with that shit. And then listening to someone I'd never listened to via his live stream was Greg Miller, and they just could not stop talking about the relationship and the dialogue between Kratos, Atreus, and then the other supporting characters. And anytime like combat came up for not even 15 seconds, and it turned right back into the dialogue, like, and it's just like hearing people. Yeah, I'm definitely not a Sony fan. Like, I've said it many times, said it in my last Use Opinions. I have no love for Sony, even though I can give their games like Shadow of the Colossus and Uncharted 4, Gravity Rush 2. Like, I can give their games praise. It's just hearing these people use these big words and then just talk story, dialogue, character interactions. Oh, it's so touching, like and not talk about the game hardly at all. And I tweeted about it, and some people got upset and had to debate. Like, when I see, that kind of stuff in the highlights of the review, and no mention of gameplay or combat or anything for a game like that, that's when red flags go up. Simple as that. And it's probably going to turn out to not be a game for me. And some people they can't accept that. But one of the where the conversation went, and where I was kind of like, at first I was like set back, like this person's trolling, like for serious. Like there's people that have story as their number one thing, and they're ahead of gameplay, ahead of controls, ahead of the level design, you know, music, anything. It's got to have story. And at first I was just like, I just could not wrap my head around that. Like seriously. But now, obviously, there's been many others, so I was like, I believe it. People have story as their number one thing, and there's, you know, the phrase accept other people's opinions, and what that means and what that sounds like, or because to some people, I just get the feeling they think when you accept somebody else's opinion, that means you agree with it, or you can see where they're coming from. And that's just not true. It's accepting someone's opinions is just like, all right, I accept that that's your opinion. You believe it. I'm not doubting it. I can't argue it. I can't change your mind. That's your opinion. I'm accepting that it's your opinion. In no way, shape, or form do you have to agree with it, or, you know, like Retro Death. What Metroid Prime 2, what's quick 5 words? What would you say about Metroid Prime 2?
Absolute trash. Won't play it again.
Okay.
I cannot. Oh wait.
Like I cannot relate to that opinion
At
I
all.
don't agree with it. I think it's ridiculous, but I know you well enough.
Kick him off.
I believe you're not just trolling me, like you genuinely believe that. So I can accept your opinion in that situation. But in no way, shape, or form can I see where you're coming from.
You don't agree with it. You accept his opinion.
Yeah.
No, I don't. He's wrong. He's wrong.
So I just think
people have different tastes.
There's a misconception. I think that's what I'm learning. That's what I feel, and maybe this isn't true. I just feel like some people think if you don't agree with it, or if you, like I said repeatedly, I cannot wrap my hand around putting story first when it comes to video games. That doesn't mean that I don't believe them to be true, or I still accept that that's how they feel. Like, but I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it. I don't have to compliment them on that mindset. I don't know. It just felt like the conversation got really out of whack. But I did title this podcast "How Important Is Story." We covered a little bit of it earlier. I don't know if you guys want to get into it. You know, it doesn't matter to me if you don't, but because it can lead down some roads and probably upset some people. But
I don't think
do it.
Hey man, fuck it. Listen, all I'm gonna say is this: it depends on the game. Depends on how important story is. Like, if the game is like, for example, and I don't want to do this because it's a fucking Nintendo reference again, but fuck it. For example, Zelda arguably doesn't have a lot of story considering how big the game is. Considering how many hours you can get lost in the game, not a lot of that is spent on story. But that's okay because the game is huge enough to where it's like, okay, that's a good balance. I can sway. I mean, obviously, no one dislikes more story in their games, even if it's optional. But something like, I don't know, something really fucking linear that literally has one pathway to take and there's not a lot you can do. It has to have a good bit of story behind it, because I'm not playing it. It's weird. I almost feel like it's kind of a cop-out in some cases. I feel like in some situations it can be used to either enhance the gameplay experience, or in a lot of reasons is used as a cop-out, a way I could bullshit you into thinking that, yeah, this is totally worth $60, but realistically, if you're playing it just to play the game, I don't know, maybe like 25, 10, somewhere around there. And that's my whole thing. It just depends on the game and the genre. Like, certain games can get away with not having a lot of gameplay, especially if they're super focused on just having fun with the game. But a game that's super limited, and I think that's really what it is. If the game is limited into what you can do, the story kind of has to make up for it, or extras or side shit. Like, you can't just have, like, RPGs are like the antithesis of a game that can kind of work both ways. You can have a bunch of story and a bunch of gameplay, perfectly fine. You can have little story, but little story in a 100-hour game is kind of But yeah.
I mean, it's like T likes to say, the nuance of the discussion.
All right, man, you learning big words. Good job, G.
Like if you like, let's say you like T likes like point and click adventures back on PC and stuff back in the day. They don't do a lot of that style game. They do kind of a version of that with like what's that?
Telltales.
What's that one? The horror movie or the horror game on the PS4 came out in the first year, Until Dawn.
Until Dawn.
Yeah, like when I talk about the importance or where story lands, like I don't like those genres. So obviously, I'm not talking about those genres. I'm not talking about the Telltale games when I listed my juice opinions, and there is the argument, like if Ocarina of Time just had a story that did nothing for you, I mean, would that been hailed as one of the greatest games of all time, without some kind of awesome climax at the end set up by some story stuff? I mean, there wasn't a whole lot, but there's like the whole story of the goddesses and stuff at point in the game. So I'm not saying a story can't heighten a game or add to it, but for me, when you look at the other stuff, like the mechanics, the controls, the level design, the music, the art direction, the characters, that the way they look, the way the game looks and stuff, all that stuff is more important to me. Doesn't mean that I don't want or don't appreciate a good story. Like it's hard to, I think it's hard to convey that, like, without the other stuff being good. I don't agree with, maybe I can't really think of a game as an example where the story's so good, but the gameplay's not that great, where I'd finish. That's the only time I ever stop playing a game, is when the gameplay's boring. When the game's boring, like not the story, but the gameplay's boring, that's when I stop playing a game. I've never.
Let me tell you about one game that I played. People call them walking simulators these days. I don't actually like that term, but first game I played was called Dear Esther. Now, Dear Esther was exactly this, a walking simulator. Now, when I first played it, I didn't know what was going on, what the game was about. It's in first person, and you basically just walk through these stunning environments. So in a way, you're just getting visual and audio as your input, because there's no interaction. Your only interaction is to literally move forward and to look around as you're walking, because the guy narrates as you go. And the person who's narrating, he's telling a story about his wife and how she died of an illness, and he went to this island to contemplate everything, and in the end it's another tragic story. But Dear Esther was one of those games that you're talking about, Juice, where there was literally no gameplay, virtually whatsoever, no gameplay whatsoever. But what kept you going was the story and even the graphics. Now, I'm not saying I could play too many games like that, but I feel like when you get it right, you get the story right, you get the execution of what they're going for perfectly right. You can be in for a memorable experience just as much as any other great game that you can mention. And I will always remember my first playthrough of Dear Esther as a gripping and emotional experience, because that's what it was. And all I did was hold down the arrow key on my keyboard. I played this on the PC. So I think, go back to what Terrell says, it's difficult when you talk about stories in games, because essentially every single game pretty much has a sort of story. It's not so much a story, it's a way of getting from point A to B, isn't it? And it doesn't matter what game you can mention. There's always the points A's to the points B, and probably the only games that probably jump out of it are maybe puzzle games like Tetris and Puyo Puyo and columns and stuff like that, which are in a sense in their own ways not designed for story. But then I'm sure some people can put story into these games. And I think Ironcast came out on Switch, which has a little bit of a story to it as well.
Yeah, I think they Super Bomberman R, like that, the story stuff was so uninteresting to me, and I was just trying to learn the mechanics.
Yeah.
But I just and these planting these bombs and stuff, I don't feel the game. I couldn't keep it going. Even if the story was interesting, I don't think I could keep playing that game, you know. So I mean, everybody's different. Every game's gonna be different. Xenoblade Chronicles, I see Grimpachi mentioned that. He doesn't understand the combat yet. Dude, you can be 40, 50 hours in that game before it like clicks with you.
And it still gives you more stuff as well.
Yeah, it's 80 hours in when it finally taught me the last thing, you know. But
I haven't fucking stopped playing it. Goddamn addiction.
But I was kind of thinking more along the lines of an actual game. Let's just say.
What are you trying to say? That's not a game, Juice?
I'm just saying, like Horizon Zero Dawn. I'll use it as an example. There's a lot of gameplay to be had in that game. It's not just a story point and click type of game. And for some people, they might really like the story. And you know, that's the type of. I'm trying to think of an example of a game like that that's got a lot of gameplay and story, where one was terrible, but there was a reason to keep playing because the other was good. I've never experienced a game where the gameplay was bad, but the story was good and I kept playing. If the gameplay got boring to me personally, that's the only time I ever didn't finish a game, is if the gameplay was boring to me. So,
oh god, I've done that so many times. I hate to chew it out, but Star Fox Adventures, you know what actually kept me going on that more than anything else?
The graphics.
That's how damn good the game looked as it kept on going. And then going. I was like, holy shit, man, look at this game on the GameCube. It looks like amazing, man. Oh my god. The gameplay was average, the story was trash. But you know, you know, but something else kept me going. There's always the exceptions, right? I don't want it for everything.
For Star Fox, I was invested in Rare, and I was invested in the characters, Star Fox, you know, the characters. So that's what kept me going.
I was invested in getting done with the game, so I didn't have to play.
No, I couldn't believe how good that game looked. And you know, back then you had to remember you were still coming into an era where games reached that point where you're like, holy shit, okay, I think I'm happy now with how games look, because this.
It makes you wonder though, like people got upset when Miyamoto was like, "Oh, make that character Fox." What if he didn't do that, and we just got Dinosaur Planet, and it was just that lame combat and terrible story? Would anybody have even talked about that game today?
Yeah, and a cat dude you play as. What was he? Like a fox or something? Was he? I can't remember what he was. He was like a cat or something.
No, he was a fox. The original one was a fox.
Yeah.
But you know, Miyamoto was just like, make that Star Fox because this game is trash. That's the only way we're going to be able to sell this turd.
And then after that, get out, Rare. We don't need you anymore.
Hey, get out of here. Go to Microsoft and make avatars.
Go make it grab by the cootie.
Is there anyone in this group that would choose not to play a game just because it didn't have a good story? Like, is there anyone here that fits that?
No,
no way.
Not really.
Because I'm playing the game.
For me, it's like story almost doesn't even matter when it comes to games to me. Like really, like if the game isn't entertaining and it isn't fun, I'm not fucking playing it. Like, isn't that
prime example for me? There's a game on my Xbox One called what's it called? It starts with an R. I can't think of the name. Record. Thank you. The graphics are meh. The story is what? I don't even remember what it is. I keep playing because
it's a Metroid Prime.
I keep playing because it controls really well and I have fun with the combat. That's why I keep playing it. So the story didn't matter to me in that game, and neither did the graphics. It's fun for me to play. I have fun platforming, and ripping those cores out of those robots is fun to me. So
I guess I kind of fit where I think a story can kind of take me out of a fucking game. For me right now, and a lot of people are gonna get mad because I've literally been talking about this game for a year and you've yet to beat it. Persona 5, oh, God, I like the gameplay, but Jesus Christ, that story is just it's something. It's something different.
So if it was like super awesome, compelling, you think you'd probably have beat it already?
Yeah, we'll put it this way: the fact that I've owned Xenoblade for not even half of the amount of time, and I'm currently in the middle of a New Game Plus run of Xenoblade 2. That just tells you enjoying the story can make the game so much better. Because I don't I don't want to devalue story in a game, because when it's good, it can make a great game a fucking amazing game. But when it's bad,
I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
No, I understand you guys though. But I'm just saying. But when it's bad, it can kind of diminish your enjoyment of the game, because it's like, yeah, I like this combat, but there's so many fucking cutscenes I got to deal with to go through it.
Well, that's just.
And for me, I'm not like Juice. I'm the kind of person who wants to experience the thing in its entirety the first time. So I am going to watch the cutscenes.
So let me ask you this: is it more the story or just the interruption to the game, like the flow of the game itself?
No. It's the fucking story. It's just not even.
Because I was watching your live stream and I'm just like, this battle just doesn't feel like there's. I mean, it was probably different to watch than to play, but it didn't feel like there's much engaging happening in the battle to me. But
it's not, because it's not really an active battle. So I'm a guy who enjoys turn-based battles. For me, it was more of an issue of how the game functions, because it functions with the story kind of is so intertwined with the gameplay to a degree where it's like you can't really play. I honestly would say you can't really play Persona and ignore the story because they still ask you questions. You got dialogue options that can dictate whether your ending is good or not, whether you can get enough points to raise your levels of your confidants with your teammates and shit. It's so integral to the gameplay that you have to at least be half paying attention to what the fuck is going on. So if the stories get on your goddamn nerves and you're just kind of like, I don't want to hear your voices anymore. It's like, you still have to pay attention to a degree.
How would you rate the battle system in Persona 5 versus Xenoblade Chronicles 2?
Which is, that's hard, because I like both.
And that's close enough where you can't just easily say one.
I probably would say I like Xenoblade 2's more, but it's not by much.
All right, because I mean, when I was playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I like the humor between the characters. Like the overall story itself, to me, was kind of convoluted at times, and the whole. I don't even remember the first dude that climbed the tree.
Adam?
Was it Adam? No,
no, you're talking about that's
the priest-looking dude.
The Praetor. The
Praetor. Like that whole storyline to me wasn't interesting, but the cutscenes that had either awesome like action going on or some really funny like laugh out loud moments. Like I looked forward to
like the one-eyed monster, right?
Yeah, that shit was hilarious. So, is that really the story? Would that qualify under the story? Just looking forward to character interactions and some funny moments. Like, to me, that's I don't know.
I would still count that as part of the story, because I mean that's kind of my thing with Persona 5.
It's almost like a skit versus like an actual. The parts that I really stood out to me were almost like this. They're like little side things more than the main overall story. There was some interesting stuff at the end. It felt a little Matrix Reloaded at times near the end, but just a little talky, a lot of exposition going on. But I overall enjoyed the arc of the characters, where it started, where it ended. But to me, like, it was just that combat system I was just playing the other day just for the hell of it, and it's so good. And
no, it's fucking great. I mean, because to be fair, the reason why I only put Xenoblade 2 above it is because I think fucking Persona is a little bit too restrictive in terms of difficulty spikes, and the fact that the biggest challenge in the game comes from the fact that certain enemies don't have a weakness, and you spend half the battle trying to figure out what the fucking weakness is, which for me is just a more technical version of the way Pokemon does its battle system, except it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass. But like Xenoblade 2's is a lot more customizable, so you can curate your own fucking experience. Like it's kind of like the Breath of the Wild versus The Last of Us. They're both two different types of experiences because they both have two different approaches to the way they make their game. But as far as the story is concerned, enjoying the characters and their developments and their interactions, I would still classify as story. That just means you prefer the more story within your characters more than you prefer the overall.
Just like in the Last of Us, I liked some of the moments with Joel and Ellie, and the overall story wasn't anything amazing, but it was some of the moments between the characters that was interesting to me. So
you're kind of like me. I enjoy character interaction more.
Yeah, like the overall story was nothing special. Girl that was immune, to the virus. It's like we've seen that before, and and again, like if you had two games of equal, let's say Bayonetta 3 basically is right there. Bayonetta 2, Bayonetta 3, the combat controls, everything's like top notch. Bayonetta 3 is like they're even when it comes to gameplay. Now, if Bayonetta 3 had like a really cool, like less convoluted story and actually had something that hit home a little more, then I would, if I was ranking those two games, I would probably take the one that had the better story. So I'm not against story in general. I'm just saying everything else needs to be there first before story is even a factor for me personally.
Yeah, because for me personally, I enjoyed the shit out of like Bayonetta 2's storyline, even its convoluted parts. But that's partially because I enjoy the characters and their interactions so much.
Yeah,
like, the reason why I like Luca is because of her interactions with Bayonetta. Like it's that kind of thought process.
It can happen. I mean, for example, I've said this before, but I gave The Witcher 3 2 scores. 10 out of 10 for the experience and 7 out of 10 for the game. The gameplay wasn't that great, but the world and the character interactions carried me through. And then like another game, Ni no Kuni on the PlayStation 3. I loved the story and the characters in the game, but the gameplay was to the point where it was so bad, not even a story could carry me through. There's always rare examples where the story can help you enjoy the game more than the gameplay itself. But I find those, especially in my history, to be more rare than anything else. You have to have a balance somewhere.
See, as a guy who liked PC style story based games, I tried. What's the game with what's the name? Ellen Page in it.
Beyond Two Souls.
Beyond Two Souls. Right. So I tried Beyond Two Souls. Like I saw all the reviews, and I'm like, well, these guys just don't like. It was funny because I was kind of defending story games. I was like, oh, these guys probably just don't like story-based games or whatever. Let me play this game. And I had played Heavy Rain beforehand too, so I was going in with the mentality because it's the same studio. I'm thinking, well, it can't be worse than that. These guys know what they're doing, I think. And so I went in and I was like, even if the gameplay is that bad, I think the cinematics and the story is going to keep me going. Nope. Nope. The gameplay somehow is a step back from Heavy Rain, and the story just didn't keep me going. It is a good story. It's interesting stuff. I would like to see a movie out of it, but it couldn't keep me playing the game.
That's why when you said in the beginning, if a bad story could make you stop playing a game, I'm like that too. I need to have the gameplay needs to be good. If the gameplay isn't good enough, I won't even get to know if the story is good or bad because I won't care about it.
I stopped playing it. That's another game I bought for my PS4, along with Last of Us remastered.
They did remaster Beyond Two Souls?
Yeah, Beyond Two Souls and Heavy Rain. I got it on one disc.
Really?
Yeah.
And, I can't get through it. I cannot finish it.
What improvements over the PS3 version? Just the higher resolution, because it was already just like...
it looks gorgeous. Like that's one of the things. It's like that game looks gorgeous.
I think it looked gorgeous on the PS3. It's just pretty much pre-rendered scenes for the most part.
And everybody looks like the real actors that they are. I mean, it looks great. But the gameplay was just like mind-numbing. Like it was just like slow. It's like it's supposed to be slow. You get it that it's slow, but it wasn't compelling enough to compel me to keep playing it.
Yeah,
not to piss on the fire, but for example, one of the worst stories in video games that even that could not make me stop finishing the game.
Don't even say Metroid Prime 2.
Echoes.
Oh man, dude!
I absolutely hated that. The first game created such an awesome adventure, a story, and exploration, and everything, and then you had two, and you got the standard light versus dark bullshit that you had in 1920 already. That's been done to death.
So hard.
And I was like, this is so bad. But I finished the first game. I want to see where the story continues, you know. So I played it anyway because it still had some of the basic elements of the first game. So even that story couldn't make me stop playing the game.
He's trying really hard to get kicked out this pod.
Wait until I see him in real life. He's dead. He's dead.
It also factors in my stubbornness to like, I bought this game, I'm gonna finish it. Like that is as much into it as I gotta see how the story is gonna end.
I'm like exactly.
I'm talking like Gravity Rush 2's story got so ridiculous at points. The side missions were just like ridiculous. But it was just such a fun game to play. The freedom, you can just pretty much float anywhere at any time, and it's seamless.
You see that building? You can go over there.
Yeah, and it's like I kept playing because it's fun. Like the story, I couldn't even tell you what happens in that. I couldn't even try to explain the journey that you go on with that game. It makes no sense at times. The world they didn't even quite set up that great, but it's just a fun game to play, and it was my number 5 game of 2017.
That game is incredible. I'm flying around. You can go up to the upper levels. You can go to the mid levels.
Once you realize
it's all seamless in real time. It's incredible.
Because like Red Knight was like, man, if Skyward Sword could have done that, where you just jump off of Skyloft, like that would have been awesome. Like, so it's just one of those things. It's different for every game. It's different for every person. For me, the only reason I'll stop playing a game is if the gameplay is just boring or the level design it's not challenging me. There's just nothing interesting happening. The story's not going to keep me playing it, and the gameplay will keep me playing it. Like I'll play a game that just has great gameplay with absolutely no story. Like Mario plus Rabbids sets up this ridiculous like world with this awesome cutscene in the beginning. They never mention it again, even when you beat the game. Has nothing to do with that initial setup story. But I enjoyed like every second I was playing that game, and it had nothing to do with the story of that game. I would have never finished that game if the battle mechanics were not fun. That strategy type combat, if that wasn't fun, there isn't enough story there to keep me going. And definitely would not have kept playing if it wasn't fun. So,
this is one of the main reasons why I love indie games so much, is because studios like that. It's like back in the days with the NES, indie developers, they have to make the gameplay work perfectly well to keep you hooked, and the story doesn't really matter. And this is where most AAA companies keep failing. They're trying to make such amazing stories. And despite that, and then they just drop the gameplay, and you just can't do that.
And it's just the whole. I had this argument a couple years ago, and I was like, "It's either you like Nintendo's game philosophy, or you don't. Like you look at what if you watch the uploads of how ARMS started and how Splatoon started, they started with like squares and rectangles shooting ink." Like in this most basic thing to test the gameplay to see if it's fun. And then they built a game around it. Then they came up with the characters. Then they came up with the world. I know those games they're more multiplayer focused and stuff, but that's how their game design has always worked.
Yeah, but I think, and I've said it before, I think Nintendo could benefit from trying to add more of those elements in their games, because God, those 2 games you mentioned, Splatoon and ARMS, are 2 games I would totally be down for more story and expansion, which is probably the reason why I'm looking forward to the Splatoon DLC.
It's going to have to be a joint effort with Nintendo and another company.
I think that Nintendo's it just shows you the other side of the coin. Yeah. It means as a game, Nintendo's games will always succeed, but it also feels like they're being slightly nerfed because there's no real good story. I think I mentioned before, like in Mario, for example, I wouldn't mind more story. And I think Odyssey was hitting his hits in that little spot I enjoy. Just do something more with it other than, most of the cutscenes were Mario and you're still not really giving Peach or Bowser any shine. But that's a personal thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Paper Mario or something?
Yeah, kind of like what Mario and Luigi and the Paper Mario series does. It doesn't have to be on some next level shit. Just give them more character, because it pisses me off. We got all these cool looking characters from all these different looking games, and like none of them are ever really expanded upon. except for like a select few.
And I mean, I don't agree with the Mario. I think Odyssey's that's as much story as I'd ever want, but that's me. But with Splatoon, I agree because you look at the Smash reveal of the Octolings and you see some cool like action they could do with cutscenes. But if that's all they did, like they took the formula, let's say Splatoon 3 follows the exact same formula. The single player is the pretty much the same length, but in between you had all these awesome cutscenes. Like that would be cool on the first playthrough, but anytime after that, like I always say, I don't really watch cutscenes on the second playthrough. Like then
you don't watch cutscenes on the first playthrough.
If they don't, if
you
they
don't, like you don't watch cutscenes. Period.
If they just threw in a bunch of awesome cutscenes, I would, this is just me. I'd rather see them like go all out with the gameplay of the Splatoon single player and just take it outside of the realm of like sticking to the like they could have single player only like mechanics and I don't know, just something expand upon the single player and have cutscenes, but I agree and but I don't, maybe not to the extent, whereas I don't know if I need them having conversations and getting serious. I mean, it would definitely have to be more like goofy and fun, I think, if they were going to have them talking and stuff, but I don't know, it would add something, I think. But like I said, for me personally, like the first playthrough, it would add something, and after that, if there's nothing more added to like the gameplay or the length of the single player, then it would be kind of a waste in the long run for me. But I wouldn't be mad if because they definitely made some money off Splatoon 1 and 2. I'd like to see them maybe step it up in the next game.
Yeah, I think we've been saying that about Splatoon from the beginning. We want the story stuff. We want them to expand that more.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I also include ARMS because I feel like that would have helped.
Yeah, ARMS too. Yeah,
that would have helped that game to a degree.
Big time.
Fighting games have kind of always been stuck in this weird rut where they're like, well, technically they're not really worth the $60 because you're really only doing like the same thing. But I think the story mode, especially in like Injustice and in Mortal Kombat, could really help those games shine and help you get hooked to these characters. Because I mean, part of the reason why people like playing Smash Brothers so much is because you grew up with Mario, you grew up with Zelda, you grew up with Pokemon, so of course you want to play with those characters.
Yeah, you got everybody's backstory already.
Yeah.
In ARMS, you just have these kind of automatons that are like eccentric characters that you would like to know more about, that you would like to see.
Yeah, I think that's
where they came from.
Yeah, that's where Nintendo's design philosophy bugged the shit out of me, because I was like, I fucking love the way these characters look, and I don't know shit about them.
You can see how populated. You can see how populated that world is with all the different races and characters and stuff. I completely agree. It should have been in
a fighting game. You need that. You need, because there's you're basically just fighting two people. Like you got to give it a little bit more meat on the bones.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why people like Street Fighter so much.
Right, Street Fighter
has a shit ton of lore in it.
Yeah, a ton of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to them. Because Nintendo already has the core elements that I like with their game design. So as long as they just added on and not had, some of the cinematic type story stuff like take over something else, then I'd be absolutely fine with it. Like, but at that, and then, will they ever do it? Who knows? Or anytime soon? Probably not, because then you start getting into bigger file sizes. Nintendo loves to have those teeny file sizes to go with their teeny internal memory that they put in their system. So it might be something that they slowly build towards. And like Zelda Breath of the Wild, they put these, not a lot of cinematics. I guess if you added them all up, I'm guessing it's not very long. And some of them they're just completely random. Some of the memories, like when she finds the frog and tells Link to lick it
which is still one of my favorite fucking.
Yeah, it is.
Of course it is.
So that was
wow.
Isn't that the one where she's on all fours?
Lick my frog, Link.
I feel like we've gone down that path before with.
We do a little bit too much. That's the problem.
But anyway, they had acting in those moments, but then the rest of the game was still minimal talking and you're reading. So like they took a baby step there. So maybe the next Zelda game, do they try to expand the voice acting? I kind of think it's the right blend. I still like reading. Like Koss plays the song. I'm just doing the Champions Ballad again on Master Mode. And if they had some voice actor trying to sing that stuff, they'd just have to find the perfect like singer or voice actor to do that. Like it could come off. It's like reading the songs in The Hobbit and then watching. I don't know. Some people don't like to read them either, but I still kind of like the charm of some things where it's text. And because Horizon Zero Dawn is a perfect example of when everything's voice acted, then
you run the risk.
You got the quality. There's no way to like have everybody be amazing actors. You could tell some of them were just the dev team. I guarantee it. And it started to make me not want to do side quests because of these fairly long, bad acted, drawn out, the writing wasn't so good on these because, they wanted to fill the game with as much to do as possible at the cost of any of it being interesting. So he got all these terribly acted cutscenes with the voice matching, awkward, head movements, and it's all weird. And it really did make me not want to do side quests anymore. Now, if I don't know that text in that game would have been appropriate or not, but it definitely wouldn't have been worse than the bad acting performances they got on a lot of those low tier characters. So I don't know. We'll see. I think what Metroid Prime 4 looks like, or the follow-up to Breath of the Wild, I think that what Nintendo does with those will kind of tell us if they're moving forward with that kind of a game with the voice acting and more cutscenes and stuff, because they do them really well. I mean, look at Urbosa's awesome little fight scene in the Champions Ballad. Like whoever directed that, like they have the talent to do that, to do those cutscenes. As that's done with in-engine visuals, but they have the ability to do some really cool cutscenes, and Monolith Soft really good at it. So I think they have the capabilities. So we'll see what they do.
Kind of like that really good cutscene in Metroid Prime 2 when you first meet Dark Samus, and she like cartwheels out of the way when Samus is shooting at. Man, that's fucking bad ass retro.
I honestly only played that game once. I didn't even think I started a second playthrough, so I can't.
Yeah, I can understand why.
I can't comment too much on it. I can't say I love it or hate it because I really only played it the one time. And
that bullshit.
Too hard. Was it too hard?
It was too hard for him. That's why he liked Other M.
Wow, you guys.
I thought the final fight in Metroid Prime 2, it was harder, but not in a good way. It was like a cheaper kind of hard, whereas the first Metroid Prime with you constantly switching, and as soon as you'd switch, the Metroid Prime would switch to a different color. Like you had to. Yeah. Did you have to have the matching color or the opposite? I'm trying to remember.
You had to match it.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that Prime 2 is better than Prime 1. Literally, there's very few games that are better than Metroid Prime 1. All I'm saying is that Metroid Prime 2 is great as well.
It is.
Agree to disagree. Like Terrell made that point.
Yeah.
And I think agreeing to disagree is really just another way of saying accepting other people's opinion. I think those two are the same.
I can't just get the props. We got to change it into something. Just go put that on a shirt and everyone can go buy it at Teespring.
And I just feel like, there's some people can't accept that, and when they can't,
they need to just have a level head about things,
and they can't come to a good argument. They just call you a Nintendo fanboy, and you're blinded.
That's what I wanted to say. Like I have no problem with somebody disagreeing with your opinion, or because people think differently. Everybody has different tastes. Yes, we understand that. You can't make me like something I don't like, and I can't make you like something you don't like. I totally get that. My problem is when you don't like something, or I can't get you to like something that I like, and then I say, oh, you're just a fanboy. I put you in a box at that point. Like, that's the bullshit I can't roll with. Like, because first of all, in your case especially, it's factually wrong. If you go look at Juice's Twitter homepage, he has a freaking PlayStation game in his what do you call it, banner. So it's just factually wrong, and it's like it's lazy. It's a cop out like argument to make. Oh, you just a fanboy. Like everybody can do that. Like anybody can do that. So it totally destroys any kind of debate right there. The debate is over because you're just calling me a shill at that point.
And that means they're not only don't they accept your opinion, they don't respect that you have an opinion, and they don't respect you if they're just gonna go to that level. And I got to give Rod, goes by the name Rodjoh, RODJOH on Twitter. He's been following me since I got on here. Mario Kart 8 tournaments he was always a part of. And he said
Rodney J.
Yeah. And I think he's from, where's he at? Somewhere down south, South America. And he's, of course, because he said this, I'm going to read it out loud because, I mean, I agree with him 100%. He says, look, I'm going to be honest. Terminator Jew and his podcast deserve an award on consistency. And I think, I mean, it's true. We haven't changed. So if you like now, like, oh my God, he's just a fanboy, everything Nintendo. Like, I've been the same.
We've been the same
person the whole ever since the first podcast. Yep. Like 191 podcasts in. This is how I've always liked Nintendo first. I think they have the right philosophy for game design. I always prefer their consoles are always my number one console, but I still can give props. Even though I throw a lot of shade at Sony, I got to give them props when a game's good that I like Gravity Rush 2, Shadow of the Colossus, like I can give props, and I just kind of brush it off. I don't really get upset too much about stuff like that, but it's disappointing when someone's just like, oh, well, he's just a fanboy. Oh, he's just looking at, he don't like that God of War got Metacritic's too high. It's the number that bothers him. Like, I don't even know what the number's at right now. I just know that history tells me when a game's getting praised for everything but the game, it's usually not something that I might like it, but it's not going to be like, oh my God, like, greatest game of all time. We need to start rebooting franchises just like this. Like, that's probably not going to happen but when I see people praising Celeste for its innovative gameplay and just beautiful pixel art and, like, the way that it's set up where each area is like its own little mini challenge. And if you fall, you just start right back instantly and you can just repeat. And it's just like, I hear people talk about the gameplay. I'm like, oh man, I'm excited. I want to play that. I'm going to pick it up here pretty soon. That's what gets me excited. But, shout out to Rod for listening for a long time. And I've always said, like, I always felt like everyone else, a lot of other channels felt like they changed. They go with the ebb and flow of the popularity of Nintendo or, Sony or whatever. I just feel like I've always been this stubborn same way. And I always try to expand here and there, like tried an RPGs for the first time not too long ago, or really tried to get into one with Xenoblade Chronicles X and trying to expand there. I played Child of Light because it's on the Wii U, It wasn't on any, even though it was on all the other systems. I'd probably still get credit or still get. Well, it's just because it was on the Wii U. He played it. Like, it's just I don't understand that, and I don't respect it, and it tells me you don't respect me. So, anyway.
Yeah, man, we ain't changed. Like, we can't help that you've reached Buddha consciousness, and you've somehow been enlightened. Somehow, you used to like this consistency. By the way, you used to be all up in this consistency. I must say, but. It is what it is, I guess.
So, all right, I think that's going to be it for the podcast then, because we're just over 2 hours, and might as well do the final thoughts and get the hell out of here. So, who wants to go first? I'm going to let you guys decide.
Whoa, that's a different thing.
I like how amazed Robert was at it.
Go on, Rob.
Grandpa Juice is over here changing and shit.
Go ahead, Robert.
Okay. So, I think if you're interested in playing God of War, I think you'll like it. Definitely, I do think it's a thing you should definitely pick up because it is really good and it's a lot of fun. And tomorrow is actually South Park comes out on Switch, so I'm gonna pick that up. But I'm not gonna play it until I finish God of War.
So you're never gonna play it.
Yeah, it's probably.
Side note, real quick. Apparently, that has touch controls.
What, South Park?
Yeah.
I can see that. I can get that.
I'm very surprised.
A lot of it's, since it's turn-based, you're just clicking, right? So
yeah, that's why I'm just surprised by it.
I can see that. I'm gonna finish God of War. I'm gonna see what happens to my son. Hopefully, I actually start to call him by Atreus and not just call him boy. It's like,
boy. Is that the same voice actor from the original series? I wonder.
No,
I don't think so.
It's a giant black guy.
Yeah.
How do we know about him before?
I've seen. He's been in like interviews and shit.
Whatever happened to David Jaffe, the creator?
Who's that? Oh.
yeah, exactly. He's just the creator of God of War. Like,
I love that. That was the best.
and however, also tomorrow, please pick up Paddington 2 on Blu-ray. The best movie of this year to me so far. Love that movie.
Get out of here.
Okay. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
It's a fantastic movie. And also Avengers in the end of the week. Holy shit. Cool. I can't wait.
Great.
And
next.
have a good night.
Wow, what the fuck?
Have a good night and
happy birthday.
Good night with some nice old kicking ass.
All right. Let's go retro next.
I often feel like my final words, they're always really weird. So I'm going to try something new. I'm just going to always keep talking about literally the last game I touched, which in this case is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And you just got to thank Nintendo because Nintendo, they don't switch between gameplay or story. You always get the best of both worlds with those games. So I'm just so happy that Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I'm still playing it. I'm slowly starting to get into it, and it's like you said, like half the time I'm taking so long with this game because half the time I'm just fighting things because it's just so much fun to fight shit in this game. And apart from that, tomorrow I'm finally gonna see Ready Player One because it's finally a cinema that decided to show it in fucking English. So maybe next week I can talk about my opinions on that one.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear because I know we don't always see eye to eye on certain things. So
it's my second favorite movie of the year.
Until Friday, probably, and
then I hope that better be the number one. I'm gonna cry.
All right, okay. Let's go to Mezzatine next.
Well, hashtag free David Jaffe, wherever you at, bro. I think he did Twisted Metal too. He was pretty popular dude. I'm surprised you guys don't know who he is. Anyway. Great podcast as usual. Sometimes, you got to let people have their opinion.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And you have your opinion and just agree to disagree.
What happens if that other person doesn't even really have an opinion? It's just because it's not the common opinion.
Guys, don't do this.
Antimatter. Yeah, well, anyway, great podcast as always, guys. As I always say, play Nintendo fools. If it doesn't make you a shill,
wow, just don't live in the bubble.
All right.
Clocked it.
Yep, great podcast again. Sorry I missed last week. I was close to death, man. I had like the flu or something tried to take me to dark places of the world, but I crawled out. I am back.
Did you just say nice, Robert? The fuck?
Yeah, nice, man.
Sometimes you gotta go through the shittiest, time to appreciate what you have,
Yeah. And
sometimes you appreciate your Nintendo fanhood even more.
I wanted to recommend a game, actually.
I know that's like, man, I had to go through my whole household went through the flu, so it's rough.
Yeah. I wanted to recommend a game on the Nintendo Switch, one that T might like as well, and it's called Subsurface Circular. Guess what? It's all story, all text-based, kind of like a point and click. But all it's about, you play this robot detective on a subway train. You don't need
I saw that. I saw that, and I just kind of skimmed over it. I gotta look at
the sound to this. It's cheap. It's all sale as well. It's like cheap, probably about $5 or something, but it's really good, and it's got some of the best use of HD rumble I have felt on the Nintendo Switch since Mario Odyssey. Just for like the way the subway's moving, the way the doors open,
Really?
the way the robots are sitting next to you, their music's playing on their headphones. All the different robots have different like protocols, and you have to speak to them to try and work out this this murder mystery that's going on between either humans killing robots or the robots killing humans or something like this. So it's kind of like that typical robots rising up, or are they type of thing. But highly recommend it. Give it a look. It's honestly,
got great graphics.
It's got great graphics.
Oh god,
No, it really does. It does look good.
What's
that story comes first. There's barely any gameplay. It's crazy.
Wait, what is it called? What is it called?
It's called Subsurface Circular.
Sounds interesting.
I forgot to talk about that Pikmin style game that's coming to the Switch. It's instead of like little Pikmin characters, though, it's like, you know, groups of, I don't know if they're all humans or there's creatures and stuff, but it looks like a spiritual.
Oh, you're talking about Pixel Junk too.
No, what was the name?
It's called Pixel Junk. It's like a tower defense game. What are you talking about?
That doesn't sound right.
No, okay.
But Nintendo had a trailer for it.
You're wrong.
It didn't ring any
the
bells.
only person who thought of Pikmin when I saw that.
Is that the name of the game, or am I just not remembering?
I don't think so. I didn't
first
feel familiar.
Let me look on there.
I played that on the PlayStation 3. It was one of the earlier tower defense games. Really good game. So I definitely
another port.
No, this isn't a port. This is a brand new game. Brand new game that's coming out.
I'll see. Oh, it's the Masters of Anima. Masters of Anima.
Fuck you, Robert. I want your excuses.
And it's got a really like the art direction is, I don't know. It looks really good though. Like if this is Switch footage and Nintendo uploaded at 60 frames per second, it's interesting, but it's like a fantasy setting. I'll send a link in the chat right now because I if anybody likes Pikmin and they're waiting for Pikmin 4, which I think already came out in the form of Pikmin,
you're not gonna let that go. Huh? You just go.
This looks like a Diablo 3 kind of camera angle, you know, like that dungeon crawler kind of camera angle, but very Pikmin style looking gameplay. So whatever you were talking about made me think of this game because there's a lot of little games getting shown and coming out, and it's so hard to keep track.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Don't Starve. I see people playing that. I've never even heard of it. Or maybe I did see it at one of the indie showcases. And I see people playing that. Oh, I'm looking at gameplay right now. And nope, it's not what I've seen. But anyway, were you done with your final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm done. Okay. That's it for me. Cheers again for inviting me back. And hopefully I'll be back on the next one.
All right. I think you will be. As long as your wife lets you or...
Okay.
As long as you don't get sick and you're allowed to, you're always welcome, man. So
as long as you're alive.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just go ahead and say it. That's what it felt like.
Terrell, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, guys. I'm trying to think. Good podcast. Random games coming out this week that aren't on the fucking eShop listing. The Naruto, for my anime fans, they got the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm trilogy games coming out, which I'm very debating on getting at least one of those, but I don't know how many people are going to get it, so I don't know if I'm going to have anyone to fight against while we still have free online and shit. That's a thing if anyone's interested. Also, I don't know, I may have mentioned the Battle Chasers Night Wars getting its launch date and everything, which I'm looking forward to that. And I'm almost at 300 hours on Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because I'm playing New Game Plus and I have a fucking problem. I was playing it like halfway through this podcast. I literally have an issue. I don't know what. I haven't been addicted to a game this bad in years. So it's just tripping me the fuck out. Anyways, good podcast. Enjoy your God of War. Enjoy your Detroit, because I think I heard there's a demo for Detroit Become Human this week. I believe. It's like tomorrow, isn't it?
It's like, I think it's even maybe today.
It's like the 23rd or the 24th. So you guys have a demo if you guys want to try that on your PlayStation 4s for those who are multi-console gamers, which is the best type of gamer.
I gotta get that.
Yeah, no, you gotta watch that, sir. You need to watch.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah, go get your 3D glasses and your IMAX.
For the demo, it's like, no joke, it's like $5.
Wait, why are they charging?
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm about to say, how dare you?
You know what? I didn't even think he was joking at first. That's how sad the gaming is.
I was like, how dare you for a second? What the fuck is that?
And he got us all, man. He got us all.
He's a piece of shit. That's what Robert is.
Like, that sounds right.
And just to finish it off, enjoy life, because if you don't, you'll be dead. So
Nice.
I felt like I had to have a Robert-ism. I felt like that's how it had to end. So yeah.
All right.
Lazy
So
anyway.
exciting. The highlight of my week is going to be April 26th when Nintendo does their financial briefing for the fiscal year.
Sounds like the dumbest shit.
Just kidding. I'm just interested to see.
He's fucking lying. That is going to be the highlight of his week.
Actually, the highlight is the next day, the 27th, where they're finally going to show off Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which comes out September 8th? 11th, 2018. The only thing that's got my excitement a little down is like their, I don't know, Eidos Montreal studio. It's not the same team that did the first two reboots, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing with the game. Hopefully, they keep it pretty much intact as far as the great gameplay and stuff. So that's like going to be the highlight of my month of April, I think, is if this game delivers or it looks as good as I'm hoping. So, because it's one of my favorite series since 2013. Surprising. Even though it's not on Nintendo, it's not on the Switch. I don't know how I could like it, but I'm looking forward to it. And so that's going to
you're just trying to save face.
Yeah, I'm just saying that to cover my fanboyisms. But I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully Retro likes Ready Player One. And I'd like to get his thoughts on that. But until next week, guys, thanks for tuning in as usual. Live chat, great, except for the idiot that was kept trying to troll. But yeah, so we'll see you guys next week.